Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Tonight is Tuesday, February 30th at 7:30 p.m. November 30th at 7:30 p.m. The high school football game is going on right now. If you'd rather watch that on YouTube by DAF Media. Tonight we have a general planning and zoning meeting, and we also have a public hearing tonight. This meeting is being held. Myself, Jeremy Ginsburg, and Fred Donite are here in Town Hall 213. The meeting is also being held virtually via GoToMeeting as per the governor's orders. So let's get right into it. We have a general meeting. The first item on the agenda for the general meeting is approval of the 2022 Aquifer Protection Agency meeting schedule. We have a draft of the schedule in our packets. The meetings for the Aquifer Protection Agency are scheduled to be on Tuesday nights and will be held at 6:55 p.m. in room 206 in Town Hall. And the first meeting date is going to be January 4th.
Yes, the Aquifer Protection Agency is also the Planning and Zoning Commission. It's rare that you would meet because the way the aquifers are in Darien, there's no commercial development in them. So we do have to publish a meeting list every year, and that's what we're doing tonight, is approving the meeting schedule. It's likely that meeting will be canceled, and it's likely you will not be meeting to discuss it this year. But we do have to do this procedurally, so we're just looking for a quick vote by the commission.
Okay, so I'm looking for a motion to approve the Aquifer meeting schedule. I think Kara Gately made the motion. Adam made the second. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5-0.
Looking for Tim Rand.
George is there. There's Jim Rand. Yep, he's there.
6-0. Got it.
Thank you, Jim. Great. Okay, next item on the agenda is subdivision application number 424C as in Charlie, coastal site plan review number 360, land filling and regrading application number 512, James and Margaret Tweedy at 108 Nearwater Lane. Requested amendments to the conditions of approval, conditions F, O, and L. Jeremy, what do we got?
So you may recall the commission approved a resolution for the Tweedy subdivision at 108 Nearwater Lane a few weeks ago. And Attorney Wilder Gleason, on behalf of the applicant, had some minor corrections to the resolution. Fred and I have read through them and agree with Wilder's analysis in terms of the 3 changes he's looking for from the commission. One is to do about the homeowners association maintaining the drainage facilities. The second is to do the planting at the end of the project, which certainly makes more sense, and a performance bond if it's not planting season. And the third is relative to the street addresses by the assessor. So we would recommend the commission adopt all these changes to the resolution. They're very minor and help clarify the resolution.
Fantastic. Any questions on this? We got a copy of the letter.
Dated November 23rd.
Yep, and there was another one that Jeremy sent. Carrie, any questions on this? I can see. You're okay? Good. Jeff Ball, you okay? Adam, you okay? George, you okay? And Jim Rand, you're okay. Just for the record, you guys are really small tonight. You're about 1 inch by 1 inch. So it's hard to find you. Do we need a motion to approve?
Actually, Steve, I have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
Is there a homeowners association formed? What my concern is with his first change is that the maintenance plan shall require, right, initially it says property owners and all subsequent property owners to maintain the drainage facilities per the maintenance plan. However, if we change this to homeowners association and no such homeowners association is created, then the who will carry out the responsibility? Can't we say shall require the property owners, or if such association is formed, the homeowners association? I just want to make sure that drainage facilities does not and that's on the maintenance plan does not become something that falls through the cracks. And then a subsequent developer who ultimately does not form a homeowner's plan says, well, I don't know, it's not the property owner's responsibility. Because
Yeah,
the
we can make
resolution
that
says it's
change. No, with that change, that would be fine.
okay. Thank you.
Do we want to take a clarification from Wilder Gleason on this as well? I would just add that the way the plans were presented originally is the drainage facilities have been proposed on just one of the 4 lots. So it's our belief that a homeowners association is going to need to be formed to not only manage and maintain that drainage system, but also manage and maintain the private residential street that's being created as well.
Right, but we don't know who's developing it. We don't know if they formed any.
Wilder's note, Kara, says
Yep.
that, quote, we expect to record a declaration requiring the homeowners association.
Okay, when do they expect to do that?
Hi,
Yeah,
can I address that?
Wilder,
Wilder
you
on?
here?
Am I on mute?
No, I see. Oh, there you are. Hey, Wilder, welcome, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Kara, as part of the final documentation, we will be submitting for review by town council and Jeremy, a declaration that forms the homeowner association.
Okay.
And that would occur before we record the subdivision map. So
Okay.
I'm fine with your change, but I don't think it's
No, but
necessary.
if that happens, then my change, then I don't care about my change.
We did this with the Mendy subdivision at 90 Pear Tree Point Road, and we'll be modeling this similarly. So
As long as the declaration to form the homeowners association is recorded and gets submitted to the staff and town council, then I don't need to change.
Yeah, we will
Thank
do
you.
that.
Okay, thanks, Wilder.
Thank you.
All right, so they look for a motion to approve as, are we amending or not amending it?
It sounds like the commission's in favor of amending it.
No. Pursuant to Wilder's, but we are using Kara's amendment.
No, I think
Yeah.
if a resolution to, the declaration of, a resolution to declare a homeowners association is going to be recorded, then I don't need the amendment, the revision.
Okay, how about this? The maintenance plan shall require the recorder's recorded homeowners association.
Okay,
To-
perfect.
It's
Yeah,
where the
thank
word
you.
recorded.
Thank you.
That's fine. Thank you.
You got it, Wilder. With that said, I need a motion to approve the amendments with the other addition as submitted or as written. Adam makes a motion, looking for a second. Jim Rand makes a second. All those in favor? 6-0, right?
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, great. You're done, Wilder. Next one. 1, 2, 3. Business site plan review. Business site plan number 24R special permit, Suite Central, 25 Old Kings Highway, North, Shopping Center. Request to replace the former fitness use, Koko Fit Club with another similar fitness use yoga studio, and to modify the 2011 approval space to allow for group fitness classes to get up to employees. Somebody's thing is on. Is that you, Maslin? Or that might be somebody named KG is on. Someone else is on. Can you mute those guys? KG's making. There's a bunch of people making. If everyone can mute their phone. Ken Gifford, can you? He's muted. And then Chris Raphael. Okay, then he can stay open. Very good. Fred.
Yeah, so this is a proposal to change the use at Goodwives Shopping Center, which was previously Koko Fit Club, a fitness use in the shopping center. The applicant proposes to change that use to a new yoga studio. And we didn't feel it was necessary to hold a public hearing on this application because we're changing it from one fitness use to another. The applicant would be conforming with all the conditions put forth in the original 2011 approval for Koko Fitness. The only thing that they're changing would be they would be holding group fitness classes up to 12 participants, and there would be a maximum of 1 to 2 employees working in the business at any time. Staff has reviewed this and is in support of the application.
This is one of the centers in town for the commission that, because it's a shopping center, Goodwives, we have to approve almost everything that goes in here. Let me see. You want to hear from the applicant real quick, or just the commissioners?
Commission.
Any commissioner have any questions on this one? Kara's good. Jim Rand's good. Where's Jeff Paul? You okay, Jeff? Jeff, you okay? And Adam, you good? Fantastic. Did I get everybody? I think I got everybody, right? Okay. Makes, well, the other thing I want to correct, it says the average typical class size is 12, not the maximum.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, the average typical class size is 12. The previous approval for Koko Fitness Club was the same, up to or approximately 12 participants working out in the space at any one time.
Fantastic. Now, Richard Pike, I usually allow the applicant to speak for your 5 minutes of fame.
Okay. Sure. It's a yoga studio. We call it Sweat Central. We do hot yoga. And I want to thank everybody for getting us into this meeting. I'm looking forward to joining the Darien community. And we do hot yoga classes. That's our business.
Is this a hot yoga class? The room's like really hot?
It can get hot. It's 90, 100 degrees.
Wow.
So, yeah.
I worked there the day. Any questions? We're all good?
We'll put you in on the weekends.
Thank you. Great, good luck, sir. With that said, it's in a motion to approve. Carrie makes a motion, looking for a second. Jim Rand makes a second. All's in favor? Thank you. 6-0. Mr. Sweat, we're off to the races. Good luck.
All right, I'll go watch the football game. Thank you, everybody.
Adam, it's on YouTube. See ya.
Okay, great. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
You're welcome. All right, what's next? Okay, next item on the agenda, deliberations and possible decision, the following. Business site plan application number 24 AB, special permit clean juice at 25 Old Kings Highway North, Goodwives Shopping Center. This is the new quick service restaurant at the space formerly occupied by Renner's Roost, and we have a draft of this. Questions, typos, scrivener's errors, anybody catch anything inside this one? Any commissioners? It's pretty straightforward application. I think it was a nice gentleman was here with Victor Rivera, came to our last meeting. Quick service restaurant. Storages. Oh, this is attached. Okay.
We note in the resolution that the applicant has expressed a potential desire to have some outdoor seating for dining in the future. We note that the applicant would be required to come back before the Planning and Zoning Commission in the spring or whenever they would like to establish that outdoor dining.
It's just a place to sit and drink your juice, right?
Yeah, correct.
You have to come back again for that? Really?
It should be, it wouldn't be a public hearing, it'd be a minor.
Yeah, whatever.
Right, it would be
Okay.
just a very minor general meeting amendment to the approval.
Okay. Okay, with that said, I didn't see anything here. Looking for a motion to approve as submitted. Jeff Paul makes a motion. Looking for a second. Jim Rand's got the second. All in favor? 6-0. Victor, you got your juice bar. Next.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. Good luck. Welcome to Darien, sir.
Thank you. All right, we look forward to seeing you guys. Take care.
You got it. Next item on the agenda, flood damage prevention application number 416, land filling and regrading application number 518, Jeff Bluestein and Margaret Konispak at 49 Stony Brook Road. This is the replacement bridge over that got wiped out, and they want to get it in as soon as the weather breaks. We have a draft amendment draft resolution in our packets. Pretty straightforward, only a couple pages. These guys worked really hard on this one to make sure it's right, because we hope other people come in advance if they have bridges on their property, and come in advance of them failing versus having them fail after the fact and being stuck. I didn't really catch anything on it, but does anybody have any typos, questions, comments, scrivener's errors on this one? Kara's giving me, she's good. Jim Rand, you have a question, Jim? You have to turn your mic on, buddy.
I do have a question. It was something touched on briefly in a comment to the application. What mechanism exists for making sure that the bridge, when it's replaced, which I heartily endorse, is constructed or designed in such a way it's not going to bother the people downstream, and or if it does prove to be an impediment to people downstream, what mechanism would exist to correct that that problem?
Why don't you go ahead?
Well, Jim, that's a good question. And one reason why the hearing was continued in November. Now, this application was designed by Tim DeBartolomeo, a structural engineer. Darren Ostafine of Public Works spent a lot of time reviewing that, because it is essential that from an engineering standpoint, exactly what you said is essential, that the bridge not constrain Stony Brook, not cause problems in the future, and that it be able to withstand flooding. So a lot of time and effort was spent reviewing Tim's plans. There were numerous revisions and responses to Darren's questions. And so you'll see a lot of conditions in here relative to making sure everything is A-OK and constructed as designed, because as you acknowledge, we have to make sure this works and doesn't cause problems for people downstream in the future. So a lot of time has been spent behind the scenes reviewing Tim's design. You may recall during the hearing, Lenny DeAndrea said that they've spent time doing a hydraulic analysis. It was based upon the letter of map revision that the town did about 5 to 10 years ago. So there was a lot of work behind the scenes from the surveyor, the engineer, the structural engineer, just to your point, Jim, to make sure we get it right.
Now, can I just ask a question too? Relative to like the height of the bridge and the clearance at low tide and high tide, is that something that's already on the books in Darien, or is something you guys?
So that's something that they had to make sure was properly accomplished.
So there is an actual footage, like it's got to be 4 feet above median high water. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The applicant is also going to be required to submit certifications to the Planning and Zoning Department, ensuring that the construction has been completed in accordance with the approved plans as well.
That's item K. Okay, Jim?
Well, so the answer to my question is no. There is none. We're trusting on the engineers.
No. There were regulations on how many feet it had to go up to provide clearance, and then once it's built, you have to have an as-built survey to prove that the clearance is there before they get the C of O.
But Jim, yes, there was. They did look closely at this, the FEMA analysis and the engineering that was that, and they based the design of the new bridge on that FEMA information, making sure that the bridge is high enough in the air to avoid flooding.
You also got to remember, Jim owned a bunch of ships that went under bridges and canals, and once in a while they got stuck. So it's very
Never.
sensitive.
Never happened. Well, I mean, look at, as long as as long as our experts and the people, not only the applicant, but the people downstream from the applicant are happy, I see no reason to object. It's just that those parties are at the mercy of the engineers, and if they have gotten it wrong, I don't know who the hell's gonna get it correct.
So it was designed to the specifications that were previously laid out.
All right, well, I'm not gonna, I won't beat it, what appears to be a dead horse.
No, I get 100% get your point.
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions on this one? Adam, you're okay? Jeff, you're okay? Jeff was in a boat rescuing people in the last flood. Where's George Riley? You okay? Yep, okay. All right, with that said, I entertain a motion to approve as submitted. Jim Ray gonna make that motion?
Well,
Jeff Paul made the motion. Jeff Paul made the motion and looking for a second. Adam makes a second. All those in favor? Jim's got too many ships. Thank God they're all sold. 5-0. Kara Gately had to step out for a minute. I think so. She's gonna be on the telephone, so we can't see her visually. All right, there we go. I think you want to call it 511 or 61.
5-0. Kara didn't vote.
Okay. Next item on the agenda, approval of minutes from November 9th. Here we go. We got a draft set of minutes from November 9th. It was we had our elections that night, and we had the approval of of our meeting schedule. What else we have here? The subdivision at 130 Leroy got extended. We have the day leader resolution for their new house. I saw the little day leader kid this weekend, the football game. Can't change that. We have another resolution from for housing property. We can't change that. What else we got here? Then we have the stuff about the public hearing, approval minutes, public hearing. Stony Brook, Parklands. Parklands. Yep, there we go. Questions, comments, typos, anything that anyone caught in this set of minutes? The screen's really small tonight. Adam, you good? Jeff Ball's good. My lawyer. George Riley's good. Jim Rand, you're okay? Good. Okay.
If you want to pull down this menu at the top and just select view active cameras, it'll be easier for you to see who's showing up there.
Okay. With that said, I entertain a motion to approve as submitted the minutes. Jeff Ball's making the motion. Adam's making the second. All's in favor?
5-0.
5-0. Bingo. There you go. That's done. Next item on the agenda is other business. Requires 2/3 votes of the commission. We do have some other business tonight, so I would ask the commission vote to, I need a motion to go into other business. George Riley, want to make that motion? There we go. Adam's got the second. We're going to go to other business. We have to appoint a person for the Blight Committee.
That's correct.
Okay.
They have one member from the Planning and Zoning Commission, and it has been George Riley for at least a year now, George, if I recall.
Yes, maybe two.
Ah,
Yeah.
There's a rumor on the street that George Riley wants to run for re-election to the committee.
Desperately. I am willing. I do currently chair it, so I'm kind of in to the weeds of it and willing to continue.
Fantastic. Does anybody else want to be on the Blight Committee? Seeing none, could we make a motion to approve George Riley as our member to the Blight Committee? Jeff Ball makes the motion. Adam makes the second. All those in favor? George Riley, voted for 5-0. You are a Blight Committee member. Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time on another
Thank
board.
you. Right.
Any other business?
no.
Fantastic. All right, we're done with other business. Our next upcoming meeting is scheduled for December 7th. It's going to be a special meeting. We don't have the agenda yet at this point for that, do we? Or sent to the agenda? Okay. We might have some resolutions to go over just to clear up stuff before year end. After that, our next meeting is going to be Tuesday, January 2nd. My birthday's 2nd. Tuesday, January 4th in 2022. All right. That is the close of the general meeting. Now we're going to go into the public hearing. First item on the public hearing is continuation of public hearing regarding subdivision application number 630, land filling and regrading application number 517, irrevocable trust for decedents of Edgar G. Bukes III, 92 Half Mile Road. Okay, what do we got?
You may recall when the commission at its last public hearing on this matter really had two outstanding issues for Attorney Bob Maslin. The first was emphasize the importance of the drainage maintenance plan relative to the brook that flows through the southwest corner of the property near the intersection of Half Mile Road and Hollow Tree Ridge Road. And you have in your packets a draft drainage maintenance plan from engineer Doug DeVesta responding to those concerns. The second concern was the comment from Fire Marshal Bob Bush about fire hydrant desire by the fire marshal. At the hearing, Mr. Maslin noted that there is a fire hydrant on or near the property, but it just wasn't shown by the surveyor on the plan. So Mr. Maslin has submitted a copy of the survey, which circles the location of the fire hydrant, again at the intersection of Hollow Tree Ridge Road and Half Mile Road, right near the brook where it goes underneath the road. And so the fact that that's close to where these two houses would be going seems to be a comfort. And that you see Mr. Fire Marshal's Bush's email dated November 23rd relative to this addressing his concerns. So those really are the only outstanding issues about this two-lot subdivision. I think Fred EPC was going to act upon it tomorrow night at their meeting. They had sent you a report previously noting that that approval was likely with conditions about plantings near the brook and boulder demarcation. So Mr. Maslin's here to answer any questions, but those were the two outstanding issues that were left from the last hearing.
And Bob Bush's email says that they're going to have a query on add the other fire hydrant.
Further down the street.
Yep, so you're off the hook, Bob. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. And what was the maintenance plan we're okay with, fire marshal we're okay with? Okay, fantastic.
I just had one request if I.
Go ahead, where are you, Bob? There, I see you. Go ahead.
For the record, Robert Maslin, I just added the slides that consist of what you got in your packages the other day. And I uploaded the updated PowerPoint. But the question I have tonight is, given the time of year, if the commission approves the subdivision, we have to knock the house down in order to record the map. And my question is, can we build in one or both of our available statutory extensions in the deadline to record the map in the town clerk's office, or would you prefer we just submit the request closer to the end of the first 90-day period?
You can do it now.
We can do it.
Trying to save some work on upcoming meetings.
When we draft the resolution, we could put in the extended date,
Sure.
okay? I mean, the resolution has been drafted. We're just looking to close the hearing tonight. The resolution has been drafted.
Yeah, you're
So-
gonna draft it for the next meeting anyway, so.
Well, I think we could debate at the next meeting and then have it
Or
drafted.
one of the upcoming meetings, sure.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine. Anything else, Bob?
That's it. Thank you very much for hearing our application, and I'm gonna cancel this screen sharing thing that Fred put up.
Fantastic.
Okay, thank you.
Any other commissioners have any questions back on this one? And Kara's camera is back on again.
Yep, Kara's back.
Okay, with that said, I'd entertain a motion to close the hearing.
Want to see if there's any public comment?
Any public comment on this application? Thanks, Fred. I don't see any public comment at all on this one. Okay. With that said, I would entertain a motion to close the hearing. Jeff Ball is making the motion. Looking for a second. George Riley's got the second. All's in favor? Fantastic. Hearing's closed. 6-0. Moving right along, catching up time. We got that one. That's fun. Okay. The next one. Here we go. Continuation of public hearing regarding proposed amendments to the Darien Zoning Map, COZM number 2-2021, 3 Parklands Drive, put forth by Parklands Darien LLC. Okay, that's the first item, and then the second item, open them both, right, Jeremy?
Yes.
Continuation of public hearing regarding site plan application number 309, special permit application number 41-I, land filling and regrading application number 516, Parklands Drive LLC, 1 Parklands Drive and 3 Parklands Drive. So this is our third night?
Correct, third night.
Third night of discussion on this thing.
Steve,
Oh, Kara Gately, Miss Gately.
Yes. I'm going to recuse myself for the reasons that has been, spoken about at the other hearings due to the
Okay.
fact that I work in the building and, yeah, so I will recuse myself, but carry on.
Do you want to come back for 12 Pratt Island, or are you going to be good for the night?
I would come back if you guys need me. I think I may though have to pick up people from the football game, so I just think with the timing, I might be picking people up. So
That's fine. We'll talk about it if we need you.
I won't come back if that's okay.
Get me a score of the game when you can.
32-7 now, but okay.
But who's counting? Okay, thanks. Kara. See you. Okay, tonight, Jeremy, where are we on this? This is our third night of hearings. We've had 6 hours so far, something
Yes,
like that?
that's correct.
6 hours of hearings. Tonight, I think we have one major item to hear from the applicant. Hey, Jim Rand.
Yeah, just a point of order. I'm given to understand that someone has raised the issue of a conflict between me and the applicant or what have you. I frankly have never thought of my being engaged in a conflict on this matter. I don't own the building. I don't have any interest one way or the other. I'm not a tenant in the building. I was some years ago, but I am not any longer. If whoever raised the issue has specific concerns that they would like me to address, I'm happy to address them. Or if the commission feels that I should recuse myself, I'm prepared to do so. But left to my own devices, I don't plan to do it.
Yeah, I mean,
Mr. Rand, that was me, Natalie Tallis.
Hold on, ma'am, hold on. Okay, the idea of anyone recusing themselves is up to the person that's on it or the applicant.
That's correct.
They're the only two people that
State
are allowed.
statutes and the courts have ruled it's ultimately up to the commission member to determine that they have a conflict, personal or financial. For example, if you live next to the project or you have some financial interest in the project, although Mr. Rand says he used to work in the building years ago, he doesn't. He does not work in the building. He may know people that work in the building, but they do not own the building. They're not applicants in the project. They don't have a financial interest in the project.
Right.
So,
where's the applicant? Mr. Hennessy's here for the applicant, and also we have,
I'm here too, Steve. You can see me now.
Yep, I got you. Hey, Craig.
Hello.
But I think Mr. Rand was incredibly gentlemanly to allow someone to ask him questions in a public forum. Is he not gonna, are you preventing him from doing that?
Ma'am, please do not speak out of order. It's a public hearing. If you want to speak, you can request to speak and you may be recognized. Thank you. Go ahead, Craig. I'm sorry.
Yep. We're ready to go if you're ready to go.
Go ahead, Jeremy.
I just wanted to give a kind of a prelude to where we are tonight, where we're going. A couple housekeeping items first before Mr. Albani tees this up in terms of leading us off. But there were two items that I wanted to mention. The first is the commission has received numerous letters and emails from members of the general public since the last public hearing. Those are part of the record. They've been forwarded to the commission either by hand or by email over the past few days. So if you sent a letter or an email, it's been passed along to the commission members. It's been put into the file on this matter and posted to the website. So it does carry the exact same weight as if you were here speaking tonight, whether it's a letter or an email or a memo or whatever. Second, as part of early on in this application, a petition was submitted relative to the zoning map change. Staff did look at it relative to, with town council, relative to section 8-3 of the Connecticut General Statutes, which talks about protest petitions against zone changes. So we did look at that question, whether this would trigger section 8-3 and change the standard for commission approval under that section 8-3B. After reviewing it, we determined that it did not rise to that level. We do acknowledge that there were people who did sign a petition against the zone change, but it doesn't rise to the specific level of section 8-3B of the Connecticut General Statutes, which would change the number of votes needed to approve the rezoning of this property. So Mr. Albani is now going to explain how tonight's going to go in terms of order and managing the meeting.
Process. Okay, thank you, Jeremy. Just a couple comments. Before we get started, I want to make some remarks about the application and the Planning and Zoning Commission process. We ask that everyone conduct themselves in a professional and polite manner. We're mostly all residents of the same town and we're all volunteers on this commission. We ask that everyone we do not tolerate any criticizing of commission members, members of the public, the applicant, or property owners or professionals working on the application. The commission's job is to fairly hear the application, take input from both the applicant and the general public about the application. So far, we've had 2 nights of public hearings on the application, totaling nearly 6 hours. The prior meetings were held on October 19th and on November 9th. I will again emphasize that the commission members read and review all the letters and emails submitted in the by interested parties, and those carry the same exact weight as personal testimony received at the public hearing. Tonight, we are not using the chat box function. All comments on the application must be made to the commission at the hearing. There were some chat box functions last time, and it's very distracting while the hearing is going on. It's like talking in the background. So tonight's procedure will be as follows. Once the application and their team finishes their response to prior comments received, we will open the hearing up to additional comments and questions from the general public. We are asking that all members of the public who wish to speak limit themselves to a maximum of 3 minutes. And we also will be giving priority to those who have not yet spoken at October 19th or October 9th, November 9th, the prior hearing nights. I want to reiterate that if you already sent in an email or a letter to our office, of the P&Z, or those have become part of the official record. There's no need to repeat what you've already given to us. As with any comments, we ask the folks to be succinct and to the point, and not to repeat themselves or the applicant of a prior, or the comment of a prior person that spoke. And that information's already been submitted. With that, our first speaker will be Craig Flaherty, who represents the applicant and the members of his team. And after him, we will be hearing from the public. As always, once the public comment has been concluded, the applicant's team will summarize their application and get the final word. Then the commission will decide whether to leave the hearing open to another night or close the hearing tonight. To be clear on the process going forward, all testimony and public comment have been entered into the record. The commission will close the public hearing. Once the public hearing is closed, the commission will be unable to accept any public testimony or information from the applicant or comments from the public. The commission then has 65 days to decide the matter. The commission will publicly deliberate the application at a subsequent meeting to the night at the hearing, subsequent meeting to the night at the hearing close, and then ultimately decide the matter, meeting a subsequent hearing after their deliberations. The application is not likely to be decided until sometime in mid to late January 2022. Okay. Make sure that thing's off. Thank you, everybody, for hearing me out. Mr. Flaherty, you are here representing the application with, I think, your counsel, which is Bill Hennessy from the law firm.
That is correct. We're both on the line, both ready to go.
We are here. Can you hear me, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, we can. We can hear both of you. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. I think we'd like to proceed tonight by Craig just giving a very brief overview of the contents of a letter that was submitted after the last session of the hearing relative to some of the newer issues at that time raised. I think this will be very, very brief, Mr. Chairman. Craig?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Bill. And I'm just, Mr. Chairman, if you think it's a good idea, I'm just going to give basically a 60-second overview in case there's new eyes that haven't seen the prior hearings. When I read some of the public comment, there still seems to be a little confusion about the proposal. So I'll give you the 60-second overview, and then I'll give you the, if you think that's all right, and then I'll give you a comment on the letter we submitted last week.
I think it's a good idea, Craig. Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah. So as we have discussed, this is the replacement of an existing approximately 35,000 square foot office building that exists at 3 Parklands Drive, just behind the assisted living facility. It's going to be replaced with a 60 unit, 67,000 square foot, beautiful residential building that got favorable reviews from the Architecture Review Board, replacing that 35-year-old office building. It complies with all the zoning rules in the zone in which it will be placed in terms of setback, height, coverage, so forth, stories. We're not looking for any exceptions or variances. All construction for the building is on private property, and we're adding a net 100 new trees to the property of 3 Parklands Drive, along with 700 shrubs and 700 perennials. Drainage is improved, eliminating direct surface runoff into Selleck's Woods from the parking area. And all this drainage goes to the southwest towards Dunlap Lake, away from Fairmead Road, away from the brook that goes around Little Brook. And we're adding a prominent new entrance to Selleck's Woods in a safer location for visitors. The applicant has been working closely both with Park and Rec and with the Darien Land Trust, who have both issued correspondence saying that they have no objection to the conversion to residential and actually see the project as having a net positive impact on the park. And these are our two closest neighbors that have direct oversight on that and direct interest in the care of the park. As for the document that we submitted dated November 23rd, we answered 3 simple questions that were raised during the process, last public hearing, and since then by staff, which is the project in a floodplain? The answer is no. The project is not in the floodplain. And we've submitted the flood insurance rate map to prove that, which is up on my screen right now. The pin here, that's the location of the 3 Parklands office building today that will be replaced with the residential apartment building. The closest flood zone is associated with Dunlap Lake to the southwest. We are not doing any work in or near that floodplain and will have no impact on it. Similarly, people brought up the question of whether or not there are wetlands near the property that would extend a regulated setback onto the property. And we hired a soil scientist to make that evaluation, because in the state of Connecticut, a soil scientist is the only professional that can determine where wetlands are and are not. They looked around, Jay Fain of Jay Fain Associates looked around the perimeter of the property. He saw no wetlands close to the property off the east side in the direction of Fairmead, none off the south side, but did find a wetland off the southwest corner of the property in Dunlap Woods, about 40 feet into Dunlap Woods from our property boundary. And to make sure we stayed at least 50 feet away from that wetland confidently and assuredly, out of an abundance of caution, we modified the plan around that extreme southwest corner, which I'll share now just to show you, and that was provided with the letter as well. So the southwest corner is here. The wetland is in Dunlap Woods off of this location. So we shifted this parking about 6 feet north and changed the amount of grading we were doing around this corner. So we're convincingly outside of the 50-foot upland review area associated with that wetland. Similarly, we provided the natural diversity database records from the CTDEP, last updated in June, indicating that there are no species of special concern or threatened or otherwise on the property or in the park, and that exhibit was also attached to the letter. So that was the nature of the one-page cover letter and 3 attachments we provided to the commission last week. That is all we have for new information, and we're happy to turn it back to you, Mr. Chairman, and complete the public comment period.
Fantastic. Thank you, Craig. And just for the record, Craig, you're a town resident also, and you're also on the sewer commission, right? So you're also a town volunteer.
That is correct. I serve on both the sewer commission and the advisory committee on sustainability, but I am not here representing either role tonight. I am here clearly and only as a consultant working for the applicant, Parklands Darien LLC. So my comment should not be taken as anything in any of the official capacities I might serve for the town.
One last question. Are you a Boy Scout or an Eagle Scout?
You know, I was never a Boy Scout or an Eagle Scout, but I do have 2 sons that are Boy Scouts, and I'm heavily involved in the troop.
That's what I thought. Thank you, sir. Do any commissioners have any questions for Craig or Mr. Hennessy or the applicant? Go ahead, Jim Ray.
I'd like to go back to the last drawing that Craig shared, just as a means of orienting my question. Okay, yeah, perfect. Oh, Jesus, I can't read it. It's so small. Okay, there's where the parking circle is, and then above it, it says asphalt driveway.
That's correct.
Yeah, right, exactly. My recollection of the application for the nursing home, if I can use that term, was that somewhere in that area, there was supposed to be a pipe that directed water into the lake. Do I recall correctly? Can anybody remember?
Yeah, there's so there's a couple of pipes that take water from the whole property, 1 and 3 Parklands Drive, to the west. So you'll see in this exhibit Dunlap Lake on the left side of your screen. You'll also see, if you look closely following this hand, a watercourse at the edge of the rest stop and I-95, right? So there's a watercourse that flows from north to south into Dunlap Lake. This is the screen that the DOT maintains at Dunlap Lake. And there are pipes that take water from Selleck's Woods directly into this watercourse. And there is a pipe that takes water from the existing office building down towards the lake in the area of 3 Parklands Drive as well. And we are reusing that pipe. We're upgrading the stormwater management system in the developed area, but we're maintaining the same outlet. And then some water gets overland from the parking area straight to the south under existing conditions without treatment. That's not good. So we're eliminating that condition and making sure that water is treated through deep sump catch basins, oil grit separators, infiltration systems before it discharges down the lake.
Okay, thank you. Let me go back then to my recollection. Whoops, I lost it.
Oh, you want me to put this back up?
The pipe, the blue line from the curve in the driveway near the roundabout in front of the proposed apartment complex.
Okay.
Okay, that line, that's the pipe that was supposed
No,
to be.
that in this diagram, the blue line represents the property boundary.
Okay.
So I can show you another exhibit that I think the pipe will be indicated on. Yeah, it's shown here. So this is the blue line. That's the property boundary. This is where that existing pipe is coming from Parklands Drive down to Dunlap Lake.
What was the pipe into Dunlap Lake a condition of the approval of the senior living, the old people's home?
No, this pipe has nothing to do with the assisted living facility. There's a separate pipe to the north that serves the assisted living facility.
Okay. My question relates to that pipe.
Okay.
I appreciate it's not part of your application.
I'll do my best to answer it.
But what I want to know, and maybe Jeremy knows, was that pipe in fact installed and does it work?
Oh, I can answer that. The pipe is there and it works.
Okay. Thank you. That's the only question I had.
Fantastic. Okay. Who else? Adam, you good? Any questions for Craig and the applicant? Okay. George Riley, you okay? You're good? Jeff Ball's okay. And Kara Gately, I think, is on the phone, so I can't see her smiling face, but she's okay. Oh, she's not even here. She's not even here. All right, fantastic. Okay. That's me. I'm fine. I understand everything that's going on here. Everything in the application makes sense. We do have a couple people that do want to speak, I think. And so I'm going to call on some certain names. The first person I'd like to invite to speak would be PJ Conrad. I think PJ lives on Fairmead Road. Is that true?
Yeah, 6 Fairmead Road.
Fantastic. Welcome. Can you turn on your camera? Is that possible? Did you have a camera?
I do have a camera. I could turn that on. Hold on a sec.
Great.
It is not letting me turn it on for some reason.
Okay. Hopefully we'll be able to do these things in public in person soon, but
yeah, hopefully. So I have lived on Fairmead for 51 years. My parents built their house in 1970. And for 47 years, we never got a drop of water in our basement. When they built the facility, that is the residence at Selleck's Woods there, the blasting created all kinds of cracks in the basement floor and in the foundation, and we started getting seepage. And this past year, we got flooded. The being the lowest property on Fairmead Road, the backyard that used to be usable is now a complete swamp, and all the trees that were beautiful have completely died and fallen over, and it just is horrible. You know, growing up on Fairmead, I recall, you know, Dunlap being the only building on that property, along with the one house that was there. And then in the 80s, they put in the second building, and they took away a whole lot of woods, a whole lot of fields that were back there to put that building in. And then more flooding happened into Selleck's Woods. Growing up in that area, again, I would, you know, we actually, it never actually had a name back when we were growing up. We always called it the path. But after that building came in, there was major flooding into the path, and you couldn't walk back there at certain times when it would rain. And now, with the way things, you know, the water is going now, it's going to get worse. And you put another building back there, it's going to decimate the area. It really is. And as a wildlife rehabber for the state of Connecticut, I know it's hurting the wildlife. You're going to cut down the trees, and they're going to there's a lot of ferns and a lot of, you know, wetland plants that are there. So they say there hasn't been a wetland study. There's been soil scientists that have come in, but if you go back there, you can see there's skunk cabbage, there's the little ferns, there's a little, I'm not even sure what the other plants are called, but there's a lot of wetland plants back there. To say it's not a wetland, it's a wetland. It's always been a wetland. And it's very frustrating that they want to pop this in right next to a residential area. So, and also I would like to see a shadow study because, you know, also we have a backyard pool that was put in the 70s, and we always had sun on the pool, and we lose the sun very, very early since the nursing facility has gone in. We used to have it until, you know, 6 o'clock at night. Now by 3 o'clock, the pool's shaded. And I'm on the opposite side of Fairmead. I'm not on the side where that facility is.
Understood. That's why I'm wondering about the flooding on your property, even though it's not part of the application. If it's your backyard, you get the houses on I'm going to say the east side or the west side of Fairmead. Then you have Fairmead, then you have your front yard, then you have your backyard. So I don't know where the flooding is, but also that's not part of this application.
The property goes down, you know, it's like a hill, and all the water that now comes from above and down the street heads down my property. I mean, I had a beautiful linden tree that just died because it drowned because of the flooding that's coming from that building. And now you want another building up there, and it's just going to flood me more.
It's the engineering reports that we had. There's not going to be no flooding off-site from the new project. Whether the other projects got flooding, we can address that with them, but that's not part of this application.
But from what I understood, the engineering from that project also said there was not going to be any flooding, but there was flooding. I mean, I'm happy to walk the property with you. You want to meet me? I'll walk the property with you.
I've been out there, been out there many times, but going into your backyard, it's how far away it is from where the applicant site is. It's pretty far. So where it's come from, I don't know. My suggestion to you would be to call Public Works and see if they can address it for you.
Okay.
You can take Nina Miller next, or if you want.
The one thing I would like to do is read this land trust one.
It's up to you. You want to read it now, or taking it first, it's your choice.
Now, let me just do it. Relative to, we did get one letter from the Darien Land Trust. And I'm going to read some highlights to it. It came from John O'Brien, the president, and he's not able to come to the meeting tonight. But just to start, and I quote, as owners of the neighboring property commonly known as Dunlap Woods, the Darien Land Trust has no current objection to the sponsor's application to P&Z for the conversion of 3 Parklands Drive from commercial to residential. First and foremost, our primary concern is the preservation, ongoing ecological stewardship of our properties. Of note, we see no significant benefits. Of note, we see significant benefits to our beautiful lake and sensitive wetland areas and to downstream neighbors by the incorporation of the new stormwater management systems that's going to be in this property. We look forward to the net addition of 100 trees and hundreds of shrubs at 3 Parklands property. Additionally, we see specific design elements of the project resulting in a safer and more welcoming point to the public access to our preserve. Recognizing the process is fluid, remain active dialogue with the applicant as advocates for the property, and that is both an important ecological aspect and precious community resource. That's from Mr. O'Brien. So the neighboring property with the woods that we're talking about does not have any objection to this application.
Nina Miller next.
Nina Miller, is there a Nina Miller here?
Yes, I am right here.
Welcome, Nina.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Jeremy. And I appreciate all listening in on this.
Can I have your address, Ms. Miller?
I'm sorry?
Can I have your address, please?
Sure, 179 Old Kings Highway South.
Thank you.
I grew up on 2 Peach Hill Road in Darien since
well.
age 2. And I'd like to start off with my comments from a quote from Rachel Carson. Only within the moment of time represented by the present century has one species, man, acquired significant power to alter the nature of his world. When I grew up on Peach Hill Road from age 2, I think, until we had to move when I was 13, we had the stream. And you can see it now, going up Peach Hill to the first corner to the right, to the first turn to the right. On your left, you'll see a stream. It is but a bitty stream. I'm not blaming anybody. I'm not saying anything about any development or anything else, but this stream used to knock the bridges off the banks. And we used to sail down those bridges to where it came in contact with the dump. And there was a screen where we couldn't get through. And we poked along with sticks and all. We thought we were fine. And I'm just saying that it is a little bitty thing at this point because of development. And I grew up in Darien since age 2, and I'm sure the house that I grew up in was destroyed land and property that was sacred to other people. And I'm not saying that that can't be done, but we have to make sure that there is property and land and water and time and place for kids to enjoy the experimental time to play and learn in nature. I've been at the Nature Center as a teacher since 1993, and it's just come naturally to me. And I think it's really, really important for the future of our species and the future of other species that we are dominant to, and that we can control the life of, and either help them thrive or help them dive. And I just think there's a responsibility for humans to respect the lives of other beings. And to that end, I really think that we need to develop and allow for other people. I grew up, as I mentioned, I grew up in Darien. I'm not exclusionary like the movies might expose, but okay, so how are we going to do that? And Jeremy, it lands on you and your crew, and you've done tremendous work in the past. And I just hope we can do that same kind of work where we can balance nature and the value of nature with living in a place as wonderful as Darien. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. The next person I'm going to call on is a Miss Natalie Tallis. There we go, Natalie Tallis. Natalie, you here? You can have your address, please?
Yeah, thank you so much. And I'm going to put my timer on to make you for your 3
Man,
minutes.
I received a bunch of emails from you this week, so I read all those. I get it. I just need your address.
Yeah, thank you. And if you want to talk to me about my work in the Boy Scouts or my volunteer work, I'm happy to do that as well. I want to just quickly address something because I think it's important. And
just for the record, can I get your address?
12 Little Brook Road North.
Okay.
Let me stop and I'll restart. Are you good?
Yep. Perfect.
There have been a number of letters. Mr. Flaherty mentioned them. You read the Darien Land Trust letter today, but from various public and private entities around town about this proposal. I unfortunately want to mention that individuals from these same groups have reached out to me in confidence because they're not comfortable with the site plan. They're not comfortable with the group proposing the work. They're not comfortable with whether Mr. Gillen will be the one who builds this structure or somebody else does. And they're not comfortable with the fact that there's no environmental impact study done on an 84,000. Mr. Flaherty said 67,000. Jeremy sent me a letter earlier today that said 84,000 square feet. So I don't know what the discrepancy is there. But I just think it's important to know that there is a public and private discussion going on, which I think is unfortunate, but worth mentioning since you did read the Darien Land Trust letter. One thing I want to bring up is Jeremy also wrote me last week that in the 27 years he's worked for Darien P&Z, that there's never been a requirement for an environmental impact study. It's time for that, I believe, to change. I know people right now are saying, well, nothing bad has been shown to me about the impact of this building on our nature preserve, but that doesn't mean that if an appropriate third-party environmental impact study was done, that there wouldn't be problems. So I would ask, going forward, if not part of this application, that P&Z consider adding that to maybe, as you did with the overlay, part of a new zoning regulations. I have an issue to bring up. I had heard with the owner of 120 Tokenique Road, maybe consider coming to you with an application to convert it to multifamily high density use. As you know, 120 Tokenique Road is an office building that's been vacant for many years. And I can't help but wonder if you all allow the Parklands development to go through, how we would feel if a high density multifamily development went through on 120 Tokenique Road. And because it's actually closer to downtown and walking distance from the train station, I'm guessing that they could even push for higher density. This concerns me because I think with this overlay zone and this proposal, that you may be setting a precedent that hasn't been considered. My other question this evening, and I did send this in, unfortunately everyone was too busy to write back to me, so I'm hoping Mr. Flaherty can help me with this one. I'm trying to appreciate the scope of this project. So what I'm trying to do is get a sense of what the building footprint was for the original Parklands 1 and 3 office building, and what was the percentage of that area of the entire site combined, and ideally not including the portions that are now part of the conservation easement. I'm wondering what the building footprint is for each new building. Again, P3 and P1, so the total combined, and the percentage of that area if you were to look at the entire site, and also the gross building area for each of the original buildings on the Parklands 1 and 3 sites, as well as the gross building area for the new proposed building and the residents, again, combined. to me, and I am, as you know from my emails, I have a lot of questions. I know I upset you, Jeremy, today, and you, Mr. Flaherty, and you, Mr. Mulvaney, and I apologize. I like asking questions, and I am learning, but I'm trying to get a sense of the scope, because the one thing that does strike me about this is how enormous it is. I know the residents went in and everyone was surprised at how large that was, but now we're talking about an 84,000 square foot apartment next to our treasured nature preserve. So if Mr. Flaherty and I can go through these questions one more time, and if you can just help me get a sense of the scope.
We have all those numbers, and I'm staring at half of them on the plans right now. You're more than welcome to come in and look at the plans and read them.
Oh, but you know what? This is a public hearing, and I think with that in mind, it's really important that the public appreciate how large this building is. And I think when the residents went in, that may have been something that really, it was missed. I don't know how it was missed. No one expected it to be that large. And now that this new building is going in, I think you owe it to the voters, and I think you owe it to Darien during this public hearing to give us the data and the numbers, not send me to some far off, SL1, which, I can't find on the Darien Town website. Please give me the information. I need the information, and the people on this call need the information. Don't say it's in their application.
That's fine. And we went over this. We went over this at the last meeting, and the numbers directly. And we've had 6 hours on this. These questions come up before.
I was at these meetings and I've listened to all the hearings, and I don't remember seeing these specific questions answered. So if you wouldn't mind,
what number would you like to know?
To the building footprint for the original Parklands 1 and 3 office buildings, and what was the percentage of that area of for the entire site combined? That's question 1. So what the original footprint,
the existing building,
for the building that was there. Sorry, what?
The existing building coverage today is 23.8% on the site. Okay, the proposed building coverage is 25%.
But that does not or does include the conservation easement, because that can't be built on.
It's as per the regulations, it's 23.8 going to 25.
I know that's the regulation, but there was something that Mr. Flaherty said that the green space for this, I think, and this is only for P3, is 54%, which to me means there would be 46% that you could build on. So you are, again, I'm not sure I understand this. So the coverage is only half of that. I mean, when you look at the plans, there's not a lot of green space besides the park and besides the conservation easement. So I'm trying to figure out what the coverage is of the buildings and the access roads on the buildable space.
Okay.
And what it was before. I mean, the first building, did you know, on Parklands 3 was only 24,000 square feet. Then this new building in the 80s, 34,000 square feet. And now we're talking 86,000 square feet. I mean,
I fully understand. I fully understand what the size of the building is.
Oh, good, because I think a lot of people don't. So I was just hoping that you give me the percentage of that area, so of the original buildings and the entire site combined.
I don't have that number.
Okay.
Okay, I can tell you that the new building that's proposed is bigger than the old building. I can also tell you that I'm very, very, very proud of the building that was designed and built at One Parklands. There's about 90 residents inside that building, and they love living there. And Mr. Gillen was the one that proposed that property. It landed up being built by a different person, and it's a beautiful building.
Well,
I'm proud of that, and I will stand here all day long and say it's a great building.
I'm so glad you think so. So what is the building footprint for each new building, P3 and P1, and percentages of that area of the entire site combined.
P1 is not part of this application.
You just mentioned P1 when you were telling me how beautiful it was. I'm
It
trying to
is
get a sense of this building and how it fits in with that entire space. Because basically you're taking a huge office building, putting it in the back of this lot in what is a residential area and a nature preserve. And you are also opening the doors for something like 120 Tokenique, if they decide to use this overlay zone in other places around town, to also put in multifamily, high density buildings.
That's correct.
So
I already met with the people.
really
I already met with the people
that we
for one.
appreciate scale. I mean, I know you guys that the Parkland team wrote the overlay zone and presented it to you and you guys passed it, which is fine. I guess that's how that works. Whether it's what's best for Darien and who we are as a town, I think is one thing, and whether it's the right thing for this particular lot is another. And from everything I've read and listened to, it's not right for this lot. This building is way too big for this lot. The residence is too big for that lot. But there's nothing we can do about that. And I think it's one, and I agree. I mean, it provides a wonderful service, but now you're trying to shove in an 86,000 square foot building next to our nature preserve, and you're putting a racetrack around it so that fire trucks can get through. And again, it's, I think the gross building area for the new proposed building plus the residence is really important. The percentage that both these buildings take up in terms of the entire lot is important. But I don't want to take up any more time of this meeting. So what I'll do, we can talk tomorrow and go through, and maybe Mr. Flaherty can join us if he's not too busy, and we'll get these numbers and I can shoot them out to the public.
You're more than welcome to talk to Jeremy. If the hearing closes tonight, the hearing closes, you can't submit any more information, but you're more than welcome to come in and talk to staff.
Well, then maybe we need to go back and do these numbers then. Does Mr. Flaherty have them? I'm assuming he's the engineer. He must have them all.
It's all in the town hall records.
Really?
Yep.
On your public hearing, you're going to refer me to the town hall records? Have you looked at how difficult it is to go onto the Darien Town Hall website and P&Z and find this information? It is not user-friendly.
Okay, I was on the commission that approved Corbin Drive, which is 8 times the size of this. I was on the commission that approved Palmer's, which is 3 times the size of this. And on the commission that approved Federal, which is also 4 times the size of this.
Different lots, and you know that.
You're asking questions about sizes. I've been on the commission for 9 years.
I'm asking questions about scale, which is different. Scale in the existing lot, so maybe you're not understanding. I mean, what we really need to focus on is the proposed total increase, right? You have the original office buildings, the combined buildings total square footage.
Yep.
Now we just want to see what it looked like before and what it'll look like after.
Yep. Do you have any other questions?
You can't answer this, can you? I
I
don't.
already answered it 3 times. You don't like the answer. I gave you the answer.
No, you didn't answer it, but it's fine. You can
Okay.
go to somebody else.
Thank you. Next person. Is there another person on your
We're
list?
trying to get people that have not had a chance to speak. So if there's
Right.
someone out there that may not have spoken yet, turn your camera on and raise your hand, and we'll take folks that have not had a chance.
We're gonna see Christine or Tina. You haven't spoken a couple of times. Teresa Voigt. Ms. Voigt, would you like to make a presentation?
Just very quickly, Teresa Vogt, 22 Circle Road. I guess my first concern would be the density of the project. I live on Circle Road, which is off Old Kings Highway North. There is a lot of traffic here. There are no sidewalks. You know, kids, people walk on Old Kings Highway North all the time. So I'd be very concerned about the extra traffic. And then just kind of a quick comment. I've been on the RTM for 4 years. I'm on the education committee, so I'm used to how those meetings are run. I'm a little kind of blown away by the back and forth in a public hearing. I think Mr. Mulvaney, as the chair, perhaps you should just listen to what we are saying as the public rather than argue with us. That's what a public hearing is. So I'd like maybe for go forward, if you just hear people out versus arguing with them or trying to defend other projects that have been approved in town. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Someone else like to speak to this application? Mr. Doyle?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Ted Doyle from LCB Senior Living, who owns 1 Parklands Drive. I have to make a quick clarification. It's not a nursing home. It is an assisted living community, although we do have residents there that are somewhat compromised. We're not here to take a position on this proposal, but we are very concerned about protecting the quality of life for our residents. You know, whatever the town ultimately deems to be legal and reasonable here, we'd like to see every consideration given to our population, who, as I said, are in some cases very frail and unable to voice their own wishes in person. So we're thinking about things like undue noise, traffic safety, light, and other disturbances that go along with a project of this nature. These can be particularly difficult for folks with dementia, which, you know, whom we have living in our building and who are, you know, cannot represent themselves. To this point, the applicant has been forthcoming with us, but we strongly ask that we remain in the loop with regard to this project. However, from a zoning and the legal standpoint, it's allowed to proceed. We want to be very aware of the construction management plan in particular, because we have to make sure that those who cannot represent themselves are represented in this process. And I think that the residents of the building itself have made themselves very clear about how they feel. We are encouraging them, obviously, to speak their opinion as a big part of the community. But we wanted to go on the record just stating that we are very concerned with the effects of this project and would like to be part of any mitigation that happens as a result of anything that's approved.
Great. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I love your building, by the way.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Anybody else who hasn't had, and then we'll go back to people that have spoken.
Anybody else that would like to speak that has not spoken yet? And I still have Miss
Sean Johnson.
Miss Sean Johnson. Where's Sean Johnson? There he is, Mr. Johnson. There you go. Welcome, sir.
Welcome. Thank you. Congratulations to the high school team. If you don't know, they won. I think they're going to the semifinals. So my name is Sean Johnson, and my mother is a new resident at the neighboring Selleck's Woods. So I'm speaking on her behalf. I do not live in Darien. I actually live in New Jersey. And I'm very familiar with construction and construction logistics and construction, you know, and any kind of development. So I have one very specific question, and perhaps you've already answered this because I haven't been on the other calls. This is quality of life. My mother has a lot of anxiety, and I'm sure a lot of the residents at Selleck's Woods have anxiety. And when you start excavating the land, I'm assuming, I don't know what process you're going to do, what methods you're going to use, whether it's hoe ramming or blasting and things like that, but that could create a problem for not only the health of the residents and their with anxiety, but also obviously neighboring foundations, where foundations will have cracks. I think one of the neighbors earlier. So I'd like to know, what is the plan to excavate this property? And how long are you going to be doing that? I don't know if you could answer it, or maybe Mr. Flaherty could.
Yeah.
And how are you going to mitigate vibration and noise so it doesn't affect the quality of life of the residents?
We'll let Mr. Flaherty answer that question towards the end, but I can tell you that if blasting does occur, which I don't remember, so I'll go back to Craig. Everyone, all the neighborhood gets notified in advance. It's very,
how far in advance?
I think it's
what is the rules in Darien?
It's like days in advance, and also even before it happens.
And how? And I mean, I know this shouldn't be a dollar, but is the outreach something that you do? You're mailing, or is it email, or is it? You know, it's something that they need to know well in advance.
We'll have Craig answer that when we're done. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it. And
Craig,
good luck in the semifinals to the high school team.
Thank you. Did your son go to Bosco?
No.
Hey, Craig, are you there?
You want me to-
No, I just want to see if he can think about that when he gets time.
Yeah,
You don't have to answer now, but can you think about that when we get time?
I'm making
Towards the
notes.
end?
Yeah, making
Thank you,
notes.
sir. Appreciate it. All right, Mr. Doyle's got his hand back up again. Is there someone else who would like to speak to this application?
Mr. Blumenthal.
Mr. Blumenthal. Sean, we'll get back to you.
Hi, I'm Lenny Blumenthal. I live at 17 Fairmead Road. I don't know if this is exact, but it seems like we're smack dab in the middle of the senior living center, right behind it. You know, I listened for a long time on the last meeting when Mr. Flaherty was giving his presentation. He had things to say, which I guess are purported facts. But of course, he's just representing their interests, the interest of Mr. Gillian and his, to get this thing moving. But we shouldn't necessarily buy into any of that. They're trying to make money. They're business people. That's good. That's what they should do. They should make money. But we're the people living here and having to live with the results of the money made. I'd like to invite the Planning and Zoning Commission to come and visit our home and our street. Actually, I'd like to invite you to come twice, once during the day and once at night, maybe around 5:30 these days. It's nice and dark then. During the week, we can walk, we can see what traffic is like without a 60-unit residential building. And then imagine what it might be like with the 60-unit residential building. Mr. Flaherty had mentioned some things, for example, like 2017 to 2019, there was no accidents on Old Kings Highway by the bridge here. I don't know if that's true or not, but let's say it is true. I can tell you what is true, though, that they were rebuilding the bridge at that time, and the bridge was either closed or was cut down to a small lane that you had to drive 5 miles an hour through. So there probably hasn't been a time where driving in that area was safer than the time that was given to express how safe the traffic situation is here. I can tell you that in the last year or so, we've seen a lot more people who don't live on the street walking the street. That's fine. You know, people are nice, friendly, walking dogs, babies, whatever, it's great. But the idea that bringing more and more people into the area is not going to bring more and more people into the area, create greater traffic, is not right. The idea that there's going to be 4 to 7 kids in a 60-unit development makes no sense whatsoever. I don't know what young people or elderly people are going to want to move into this with no amenities, that on one side is a truck stop on a major highway, and there's a senior living center right next to it. So I don't know that that's the fun place anyone's going to move to. It will most likely be people wanting to come to Darien, get into the school system. Those are good things. We should do that. But the question is where and when and how. You know, a few years ago, they built the senior living center. It fits 102 residents, as I understand. I don't know the exact number of employees when it's fully filled up with residents, but considering it's a center where there's people living, it needs to have staff 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. I can imagine there's 50, 60 staff every week. Those are people coming and going already on the street. There will be opening on East, which is just across Old Kings Highway here, a 12-unit center for some developmentally challenged people. That's also great. It's necessary, but these are all things happening in a few years, and on top of it, we had COVID and everyone's home more and more. It's kind of like post-traumatic stress disorder, and now we want to set off some more bombs. Can we have a little breathing room here? also, if anyone thinks that this is going to be good for property values for the existing people that live in homes around here, I would like to offer them to buy my home from me, because it's not going to have a neutral effect. It's going to have a negative effect. You just can't keep piling more and more people into the same area and expect that everything is going to be the same as it was before. It's not going to be. The idea that I'm thinking that this is to represent the citizens of the town and have their voices heard. So Parklands LLC is a business. I guess they're a corporate citizen of Darien, but we here are the citizens of Darien, the voters, the people that have our families here. My wife and I moved here 8 years ago. We moved to this specific street because of the nature of the street, because of the quiet, and what it's going to turn into, what it's turning into, is not what we thought it was going to be 8 years ago. And again, we should diversify the housing stock in Darien, but you're not talking about 15 units with subsidized housing to allow a more diverse population and give some opportunity to people that it would be really good to get their kids into a great school system. We're talking about just jamming more and more people in. So somebody who had a couple of office buildings that doesn't seem to be making enough cash for them, sells one on a story or sells the idea of it and then sells the project so somebody else is doing the project. We're talking about 60 units. We don't know if it's apartments. We don't know if it's condos. We don't know who's actually going to run it. We don't know who's actually going to build it. And there's other areas in town to do this. I understand why Parklands LLC and Mr. Gillian want to do this. Again, they want to make money, but that should not be the measuring stick, that they want to make money. We need to think about the people that live here on Fairmead Road and on the other roads in the general area that will be affected by this. And someone mentioned again that they saw 5 cars in 6 hours. Yeah, great. I don't know, maybe 12 midnight to 5 a.m., but that's not what we see on a daily basis here. So please come out, visit us more than once. We're happy to have anyone here, show them around the house, show them our backyard, and you can see how we can reach out and touch the senior living center. That was not the way it was sold to us. And you can see the street, you can see Old Kings Highway, and you will understand truly what the effect will be in putting more and more people into this area that's already absorbed 120 to 150 people in the last few years. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Just for the record, I want to make sure everybody remembers that we had a traffic study submitted by the applicant. There was also a drainage study submitted by the applicant. Both of those studies were reviewed by in-house people here in Town Hall and also sent out to third-party reviewers that were hired by the town, that worked for the town, that analyzed both of those documents and studies. And the traffic study came back neutral, as we said, and the drainage study was approved by our third-party outside people and inside people.
We were told it was going to be quieter with a bigger building behind us because we wouldn't hear the noise from I-95, and we've doubled the noise because the noise bounces off the building and it's louder here now. So there was studies and there's studies and there's a lot of studies, but we're living in the reality. Thank you.
We'll try to address that with LCB and see if they can do something for you. The next person we have is Joel Perry. Is that right?
Yes, good evening.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I attended the November 9th hearing, and I've submitted letters in opposition to this project. And I want to, first of all, convey that I fully support my neighbors and other community members who've spoken on these issues to address the concerns that they've raised, specifically dangerous traffic and congestion, noise pollution, flooding on the street. By the way, I live at 22 Fairmead Road.
I was going to ask you that. Thank you. Have your address.
And the environmental impact on our town and Darien Land Trust owned Selix and Dunlop Woods. So many people have spoken on those issues, and I support that. And I'm not going to repeat those concerns, but I think those are at the forefront. What I wanted to address tonight is a broader point that I think the town's Darien Planning and Zoning Commission should consider when and whether to approve this project. And that's to think about like the broader impact on the town and the town's aging infrastructure. You know, in my review of the town records on the website, I see that there are at a minimum right now 3 other multifamily unit apartment projects that have been approved. The Corbin District with 116 new apartments in downtown Darien, the Norotan Heights Shopping Center owned by the Palmer family, 60 new apartments, and the Darien Commons in Norotan Heights, 122 new apartments. By my count, that is a total of 298 apartments that will all be coming to market at or near the same time in the coming future. My question is the wisdom of adding another multifamily unit project at the same time that these have already been approved. And I just am wondering whether or not, you know, as a threshold matter, whether there's been an analysis as whether demand even exists for 60 new multifamily unit apartments on top of the 298 that have already been approved and are underway in construction in one form or the other. You know, and one of the things that, you know, concerns me about the marketing of this particular, the 3 Parklands project is it's being marketed and touted to folks as a quote unquote pedestrian friendly option for Darien. And that's just simply not the case. This project would be well, you know, 1.3 miles away from downtown and the downtown Darien train station. And when compared to the Corbin District and the 2 apartment complexes at Norotan Heights, those are the apartment complexes that are going to attract people who want to walk and are not going to be using cars and are going to be utilizing mass transit on a day-to-day basis. The 3 Parklands option is not going to attract people to walk to Darien downtown station. Instead, it's going to attract folks who have cars and who need cars to access jobs, who may want to just hop on I-95 given the location there, and who are going to, you know, we're going to attract families who are going to want to utilize our school system and the ensuing traffic that's going to create. So, you know, I think there's a question that the commission needs to consider about overall demand and the wisdom of onboarding all these new apartments all at the same time, rather than like a wait and see approach. Let's see how these other 3 projects go. Will they fill up? Will they be utilized? Will they attract new residents to town? And secondly, you know, if this were to go forward, it's just simply not that 3 Parklands is simply not going to attract people who are not relying on cars. And there's just one apartment building complex that I think offers some insight to, you know, to support my position on this, and is the Pemberton 16 apartment building on the corner of Leroy and West Avenue. That was a 16-unit apartment building, 5 affordable and 11 market. Leroy and West, very close to downtown Darien, you know, a short walk to the train station. And I understand that apartment building was an age-restricted apartment building, but my reading of, you know, articles that are publicly available the developer in that case had a very difficult time marketing that or filling those market unit apartment buildings, notwithstanding the fact that it was close to train in town, such that the owner sought you know, a modification to the age restriction to lower it to attract more people. To me, that's very telling. It, again, on the issue of who's going to live at 3 Parklands. If Pemberton 16, close to town and train, couldn't, there wasn't a demand for people without children, older individuals who wanted amenities to town. If that couldn't fit, if that didn't fit the demographic profile that Pemberton 16 saw, 3 Parklands is certainly not going to attract older empty nesters who, again, would much prefer to live in places which are much more pedestrian friendly. So again, who does that leave 3 Parklands for? It's clear that it's going to attract families with children, and it's going to contribute to the traffic. So I think the analysis by the developer, to echo my neighbor Lenny Blumenthal tonight, the fact that 4 to 7 kids is just not, is inaccurate. And I think we can all agree that is just not the case. And all of these factors, I think the commission needs to consider in deciding whether or not to approve this project. The simultaneous development of so many different apartments all at the same time, its impact on the town's aging infrastructure, whether or not we should just take a wait and see approach and really kind of press on the issue of who actually is going to be living in this building if it's approved in its current form, and the consequence of that and how it's going to impact traffic and noise and pollution and the harmful environmental impact. So my request is that the commission really think about this, you know, not in isolation as to the merits of this one building, but its overall impact on this neighborhood, the community, and the town in its deliberative process. Thank you for your time.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I can assure you that we do look at the town holistically. I've been on the commission for, I think, 9 years. And that's why we do town plans of conservation development. So we do look at the whole town. I can also tell you, 16 Pemberton, the building you're talking about, has the highest rents in all of Darien. That developer they knocked the ball out of the park in terms of how much rent they're getting for apartments right now. Next speaker we're gonna have is who?
If there's anyone else who hasn't spoken yet, anyone else raise your hand?
Yes.
I'd like to speak.
Jerry, I would like to speak.
Ingrid Hess.
Thank
Ingrid
you.
Hess.
Thank you so much.
Is your camera work, Ingrid?
Yes, let me put it on. Thank you so much for your time and for doing this, and appreciate the work that you have done. And
Can I have your address, please? And then also, I said at the beginning, and I haven't been good about it. Can we try to keep the comments to 3 minutes? That would be appreciated.
Sure.
What's your address, Ingrid?
86 Raymond Street.
Thank you. And you're a realtor in town, correct?
Yes, I'm a realtor in town, and there are many things that were said that I would like to comment to it. The rents on Pemberton right now are high due to COVID and to the lack of inventory that we have. That building could not be even rented. I sold one of the low-income housing one, and this woman has suffered to having to redo it completely because of the quality. But that's not what I wanted to comment. I just wanted to say that, as Mr. Mulvaney very wisely said, you have approved 3 wonderful projects in town that most of the town has wholeheartedly supported, and we're really excited about. They have been mentioned, and they will be really good for the town. And I am not understanding. I completely support what was said, and then this is what I was going to comment on. That maybe we could take a breather and see how the other things develop. So I'm not going to repeat that. So the major comment that I want to make is that it's seeming to me right now with questions that people still have on this that have not been answered, that it's looking to me like you want to shut down this hearing and there will be nothing allowed after, like when Natalie Tallis said that she could meet you tomorrow and talk about this, and you said, no, after tonight, this is it. We cannot do anything like that. So I would like to understand why, if there's still questions that are unanswered, if there's still issues that are bothering the residents of Darien about this, why can we take more time to either continue the hearings and do a little bit more due diligence on this? And maybe even having the holidays in between allow us to have a breather on it and kind of reconsider it. I mean, as a commission, you've been very wise, and you have approved wonderful projects in town that it's doing amazing improvements for Darien and making the town better. And you know, I've always been on board with everything you've done so far. But this is a project that, based on the merits, now that I kind of jumped in and trying to learn about it, it just doesn't seem to be something that fits the needs of the town right now. And particularly, like the last two speakers have said, we have a lot of inventory coming on, and we don't know how that inventory is going to be taking. There's a tremendous amount of inflation. The prices are absolutely crazy. The costs are really big, and it's going to be really hard for these apartments probably to be sold. And like this one is proposed as a rental place. But what quality of building is this going to be? We know from Pemberton that it's really not good quality, and having been very involved in this building, I can attest to that lack of quality, because it was flipped. It was sold to somebody else and they couldn't sell it. So I think it would be really wise, and you as a commission have been so far very wise, that we could just take a little more time maybe to debate it, talk about it, to think about it, and maybe put it on hold. I'm not saying that you have to kill it or not allow it to go through, but yes, like it was said, let's just take a moment and see how the other projects go, and maybe the town can absorb this many more people. We are really at maximum in town for open space. We should actually be creating more open space instead. It's too bad that this could not be proposed as something that the town of Darien, just like with Mather Meadows, could just join together and buy the building and turn it into a part of the park and donate it to the conservation and to the land trust. I mean, those would be ideas that could be floated to help Mr. Gillen, because nobody's here to cause him any harm either. That's not what we want to do. We want everybody to come out a winner. But for me, as a realtor in town who've been doing this for 35 years in town, I am deeply concerned about the precedent that we could be setting with 120 Tokenique Road. And I also heard that the owner of number 100 also is thinking that if something like 120 happens, that why not sell or ask for the same thing? So that would be an enormous amount of land that could be developed and create something that would be a monstrosity. Tokenique Road, as it is, given that I have to use it to come to my house daily, many times a day, is already a nightmare. It's the entry to Rowayton, just like Oakins Highway North is. That creates a tremendous amount of traffic. I live on Raymond Street. We're the cut through, the favorite cut through for anybody.
Can you just keep your comments to this application?
I'm sorry?
Yeah, you're going off to a different property. That's not subject to this application. And yes, we
No,
already spoke.
I just want to address the
Referring to
precedent
traffic.
because everything is based on precedent. Thank you.
Thank you. Who do we have?
Rosemary Trumpeter is next.
Rosemary Trumpeter? Is there a
Yes,
Rosemary?
hi. I'm sorry, I don't think I can turn on my camera, but I live at 11 Musket Lane, and over the past 2-3 years, the traffic, you could sit at Raymond Street and you just wait for the traffic to go back and forth either way on Old Kings Highway North. You know, we deal with traffic coming from Trader Joe's, Costco, shooting over I-9, the Old Kings Highway Bridge to get onto I-95. And, even a lot of my friends in Darien will admit to me that, they use Old Kings Highway North as a cut through so they can get to Norwalk in a hurry. And people will even use Old Kings Highway North and they live on the other side of town to avoid Post Road on the weekends because of Costco. Darien is I grew up in Garden City, Long Island. It was a planned community.
Right.
You had, yes, Stephen, I went to school with your sister. It was a planned community. It had curbs, it had sewage systems. So if somebody was doing, or there was construction a mile from your home in Garden City, it did not affect you. But in Darien, what happens a mile away can affect your property. So when the lady who spoke from Fairmead, you happened to mention that she was at a distance from the new development, water will seek its lowest level. So she may not be right near the property, but the water is going to go in that direction. So my big concern is the traffic and, just changing the whole area. And, I hope this plan does not go through. And if it does go, if you're undecided, the best thing to do is to wait and answer all of our questions. Thank you.
You're welcome. What's your maiden name?
Mead,
Oh, your maiden name is Mead?
MEAD,
Oh, I was trying to figure out what sister you. I have 4 sisters.
Kathleen.
Oh, great. Thank you. Okay. Again, I said before, we had a drainage study on the project. It was reviewed in-house by town and it was reviewed by outside drainage professional that does all the studies that we have, almost all the studies we have in Darien, and all the engineers, the 3 of them signed off on the project. So the building is not being designed to flood anybody's stream. Alex Jackson would be next.
Oh, I can't. Hi, this is Alex Jackson, 19 Circle Road. Appreciate all the comments. Thank you. One quick question. Has anybody looked at the ability of people to leave the property in the event of a problem, like, for example, a hazardous waste spill in the rest area or a fire or explosion in either of the buildings? I'm looking at the thing and seeing one point of egress and wondering if that's really sufficient for the number of people who are going to be in there, particularly given what's around it.
I can't recall that we have seen a natural disaster or I guess proposed disaster study.
Okay. Are there not either OSHA or NHTSA regulations about ability to evacuate people in the event from a certain distance from a hazardous waste spill, for example? Has anybody reviewed that?
I've not seen that in all my years in real estate. No.
I was looking online at some regulations the other day, and indeed, it seems that if you're within a certain number of feet of a hazardous waste spill, there has to be an ability to evacuate the population within a set period of time. And I would ask that you investigate that given the proximity to the rest area.
Okay.
May I speak to that?
I'm just trying. Anything else, Mr. Jackson?
No, that's it from me. Thank you.
I appreciate that, sir. Who do we have next?
Leslie.
May I speak to that?
Is there a Leslie in the room?
You want to speak or no?
Leslie would be our next speaker. Okay.
May I just speak to that last question? Because 51 years on Fairmead Road, have seen numerous accidents on 95.
Okay, I'll get back to you. And what was your name again, ma'am? I'll get back to you in a minute.
PJ Conrad.
Okay, PJ. Oh, you spoke first. Got it. Okay.
Yes, I did.
Who are we looking for next?
That's it, unless someone else wants to raise their hand.
Yeah, excuse me, it's Christopher Christie, and I don't seem to have the ability to raise my hand. I can't seem to find how to activate that on my screen.
See, that's fine. I got you. Good.
Great.
So what's
Thank you very
your name and
much.
your-
Yeah, I can see
your
either.
address, please? Your name and address, sir?
Absolutely. It's Christopher Christie, 208 Old Kings Highway North, which is probably the most infamous intersection in this discussion. I live at Old Kings Highway North and Raymond. And so I will just like to comment on the changing nature of our neighborhood is progressing in a way and in a nature I think that those of us, when I look on the screen, don't really agree with. And so I think if this were put to an up-down vote on the participants in this call this evening, there'd be a resounding no. And so I'd wish for town government to listen to that and listen to the sentiment and the expression of the community members. I've participated in 2 of these calls, and I think the sentiment has been very clearly expressed in both of these calls. But I'd also like to comment on the changing nature of Connecticut and the neighborhoods around where we happen to be situated in Darien. We do not live on the backside of town up near New Canaan. We live in a town, part of town that is buffeted by Costco, as other people have mentioned, Post Road. And what I've noticed from my home, the traffic, the accidents that we've experienced in front of my very own home, the cars avoiding the school buses as they're picking up my children, this development will be put into that environment, an environment that is already, I think, under some duress and could probably use some focused planning. And I'd just like to also comment on the fact that as this community changes, as does the state of Connecticut and the country, right, we're going to have more mobile deliveries of household goods, groceries. All of us are ordering items on Amazon. You can't imagine the speed at which the UPS trucks rumble down Old Kings Highway North. And I've clocked them trailing them at 55 miles an hour or more. And so when you think of adding one apartment structure, sure, it's one building, but it's 60 plus households, if I'm hearing that and recalling that correctly. And what I'm wondering about is the impact of all of those individual deliveries and all of that supplemental activity that will occur to support those residents. This is not about the potential residents. It's about the impact those residents might have on our community. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your comments. What else? Who's next?
Is anyone else who hasn't spoken?
I don't know how to raise my hand either. It's just Chris Meehan. So when you get a chance, right?
Yeah, Chris, go ahead, sir.
Well, somebody else sounded like they were ready to talk. So, but you know.
Yeah, my name's John Carney. I haven't had a chance to speak.
Okay, John Carney. We'll go John Carney, then Chris Meehan.
My address is 160 Old Kings Highway North.
160 Old Kings Highway North. Go ahead, John.
So thank you for your time. I'll be brief. I just want to highlight that this particular neighborhood has no multifamily units in the vicinity because it is not walking distance to the town center. The proposal is not consistent with the density of the neighborhood and will exacerbate the traffic on what is already an extremely busy residential street on Old Kings Highway North. The traffic associated with this development will be substantial and will be 7 days a week. I heard you say there was a study, but that gives me little comfort. The intersection near the highway entrance is already a very busy intersection with cars frequently speeding, and adding this multifamily development will make this an even more busy area. I appreciate the service of the commission. Thank you for listening to the community. But frankly, I'm shocked this seems like a project that you intend to approve. There are hundreds of community members on these calls, and they have been very vocal in opposition. Many have made great points. Developers are in the business of making a profit, and there will be many school-age children residents. There are no sidewalks on Old Kings Highway North, and I think it's important for the commissioners to listen to these messages. As someone said, the developers are in the business to make a profit, and there will be plenty of other projects appropriately designed for this town. Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. Thank you for your comments.
Can you hear me? This is Leslie. Are you able
that?
to hear me?
There's Leslie. We called on you earlier. Sure, Leslie.
You did. I'm sorry. I wasn't able to get my microphone to work. So, however, I did hear my name called out. I just wanted to do I'm going to be very quick.
Sure, Leslie, what's your last name and your address, please?
It's Nolte, Nolte, and I'm at 214 Mansfield Ave.
214 Mansfield. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
so I'm nowhere near Selleck's Woods in the sense of living over there. However, I live very close to Cherry Lawn Park. So I spend a lot of time walking. I'm outdoors a lot. I'm in the parks a lot. I'm at Cherry Lawn Park a lot. I'm in Selleck's Woods quite often. I'm in Woodland Park. So I'm outdoors a lot. I'm in New Canaan. I do a lot of their parks. And I just have to say that my biggest disappointment in our town right now is how we're handling this. You know, we've got this beautiful park that does get, I would say it's slightly underutilized, but it's absolutely amazing. And we don't do enough with the preservation of our parks. We don't do enough of taking care of our parks, supporting our parks, and making our parks more accessible to everyone. I think we need to do a better job with our open space and our green space. I think New Canaan has been amazing. I kind of think it's a shame on us that we haven't been able to, take it in that direction. It's a little disappointing. I've lived here for 31 years. I do love Darien. I would say that's the one biggest downfall that I think we have. I know we've got a lot of spaces that have been, preserved as of late, but nothing to the point where we can really be in the outdoors, running out on the trails, walking in nature, trees, ponds. I know a lot of people fish over at Selleck's Woods. My son has fished there before with his friends. I think a unit of that size, housing going in there, is drastically going to change what happens in that park. And that really saddens me. I also really feel for the people that live near there. I know the traffic is awful because I do drive in and out of there all the time. So I do know it's really tricky getting out of there and getting onto 95 and not, making a left-hand turn and having someone come up and over that overpass. It's pretty dangerous. So, I really wanted to keep it to that. I'm surprised more people haven't spoken about how they feel about that park and what's going to happen with that. That I think should really concern us in our society, and how, we're talking about, taking care of nature and our waters and our parks and our land. So that was my add in on that. Thank you so much tonight.
Thank you, Richard. Appreciate
Hi,
it.
this is Chris Meehan again.
Okay,
If I could
Chris.
just add, thanks. I'm at 19 Bayberry Lane, which is just the street down from Pyramid. I just want to add on the back of her comment about the traffic and everybody else, and studies get done, people make mistakes. I don't like the fact that those people that do the studies for the towns and for the developers have no downside to those mistakes, nor the developer. So if this does get passed, and I hope it doesn't, I would like to have you make sure that you have a proposal that if the traffic isn't 6 cars a day or some ridiculous amount they put there, but rather it becomes a major problem at that intersection, that whoever is developing it and or the successors will have to fund an ability to kind of manage that through traffic light, through a roundabout, whatever it may be. I don't want the thing to go forward, and I'm not for it. But if it does, I think there needs to be downside liability, and people need to own it. We can't just keep going. The study said this, and then everybody wears it. Thanks.
You're welcome. Just on your one comment about the downside for the consultants, there actually is a downside, because our consultant that we use, gentleman's name is Michael Galante. He approved the traffic study for Corbin and for Federal and Palmer's initially. And I told him that if these traffic studies don't stand up, that he's not going to be working at Darien anymore. So he might lose a client. So yes, these guys do have downside. There are a lot of consultants out there.
No, that's a good one, but I think the developers have to take responsibility too, right? So,
Yep,
they too. Yeah.
Yep, and so is the
Thanks.
town.
Anyone else who hasn't spoken?
Anybody else would like to speak to this application that we haven't heard? There's a gentleman in the middle that's got his hand up, right? Let me see your name. I think I found your name.
Tim Henry? I think he
Okay.
spoke at a public hearing.
Tim Ren. Okay,
Anyone
so
who hasn't spoken yet?
we got Tim Henry, spoke before. We got Tina LaRose that spoke before.
Evan Flynn spoke before.
I had a chance to speak this evening.
That's
Okay, is that
Michael Hawes.
who is?
My name is Caroline Bolwell. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can see you. Good. Bowell, got it.
Yes. All right. Thank you, Mr. Ulvaney. For the record again, my name is Caroline Bolwell and I live at 139 Old Kings Highway North. I know many of my neighbors and other residents of Darien have shared their concerns with you through letters and also verbally this evening, but I wanted to emphasize one specific ask of the Commission before moving forward with approving the proposed development. The location of this proposed multifamily apartment complex is truly in an extremely sensitive area, speaking from a geographic perspective. The Selix Woods and Dunlap Woods Nature Preserve contains almost 2 miles of trails through 7 distinct ecosystems, ranging from dense woodland areas to ponds, marshes, and also streams. Through the efforts of the town of Darien, the Darien Land Trust, and the Friends of Selix Woods, the property has been preserved and has become a popular destination for a lot of our public's recreation. And because it has become a popular destination, there really has been a lot of concern that the natural habitat may truly become jeopardized. And in 2009, an environmental review team was actually asked to provide information and guidelines as to how to manage this habitat going forward. Specific concerns include the management and restoration action needed to preserve, protect, and restore natural habitats while balancing public educational use and enjoyment of the preserve. Moving forward with the proposed development without any proper environmental impact study would be reckless and could jeopardize the overall future state of this delicate ecosystem. With the construction of a 60-unit, 84,000 square foot apartment building will come negative consequences. Specifically, the preservation of Selix and Dunlap Woods would be impacted. The proposed development is roughly 2.3 times the size of the existing office building. This project is completely out of proportion to the current structure, and its footprint and impervious area differential is significant. This will contribute to a number of environmental impacts which cannot be ignored. Notably, this building will have an impact on the amount and duration of sun the surrounding woods will receive based on its proposed height. I would like to request that a shade and shadow study be prepared by an architect or civil engineer ahead of approving this project. The main purpose of the study will be to analyze the effects of potential shadows cast by the new development based on the movement of the sun's path across the site. Excessive shading can have a negative impact on the surrounding landscaping provided by the applicant, as well as within the adjacent preserve, which is one of Darien's few public outdoor amenities. This request is particularly important as we have discovered that the immediate area surrounding the proposed project is primarily clay soil. Without the presence of plants here, there will be no water absorption into the ground, causing significant runoff issues. The existing residence at Selix Woods has already hurt the delicate environment. Trees have died due to the lack of sun as a result of the extensive shade that's been cast by the building. We cannot be as reckless this time around. It is of paramount importance to ensure we do not continue to destroy the natural landscape and the town's protected open space and beloved nature preserve. If a new building is to be resurrected in this space, let us please be thorough in ensuring that no negative impact will be had on the surrounding land. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Caroline. Who do we have next that would like to speak to this application? If your camera's on, you can wave hi.
Spoken before. People of Selix engagement. There's residents of Selix Woods. I think they have one speaker tonight on behalf of the group.
And then we also have an Evelyn Flynn.
She's spoken already.
Okay. So the Selix engagement people?
They've spoken already. Nina Miller's spoken already. Tina LaRose spoken already. Anyone else new? John Huntington would be next.
John Huntington. Welcome, sir.
All right. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I live at 18 Fairmead. I'm sitting in between the house of PJ Conrad Joe Perry, and across from Lenny Blumenthal, who all spoke earlier. I'll try not to be repetitive. And I do have a letter on file that was submitted, and Jeremy confirmed receipt, but appreciate the chance to air my concerns. One, I'd like to say that just the tone of this hearing appears like it's an inconvenience to have the public portion of this hearing, and I just regret that as a resident of the town and a resident of Fairmead. Two, I'd like to acknowledge that we do know that there have been studies, drainage, traffic. I think P&Z has air cover, that those have been completed. And I'd like to speak for my neighbors, I don't think we think that those conclusions from those studies are adequate. With respect to traffic, this has already been acknowledged to be a busy road on Old Kings Highway North. Common sense would just lead me to believe that it'll be additive to that traffic, particularly evenings and weekend when we added a residential building and set of residents to a currently commercial building that is vacant at night and on weekends. So I don't think we feel like what's been done so far is adequate. Two, the facility, it's too high. And there's been requests for sun and shade studies, and that's a result of the fact that Parklands sits 3 stories above Fairmead, and this facility will be 3.5 stories above Parklands. So that's significant number of feet above Fairmead. I'd like that to be considered by the commission as they evaluate this proposal. The geography is unique. The sun sets earlier on Fairmead than it does the rest of the town, and would ask that be noted. And that's, I think, why you're also hearing this sun and shading request from many of my neighbors. With respect to drainage, I think you've been invited to the home of PJ. I've got 3 down trees at 45-degree angles in my property. I don't believe that the existing senior living facility has been helpful to the drainage aspects of this street. And I think that the contemplated development would be further degrading to those. So I think we have serious drainage concerns. Yes, there is a study, but so far we believe we've been negatively impacted by the bird in hand, which is the existing senior living facility. Two, I just doesn't seem like there's any post-mortem implications. We're the ones that are downstream to this street, downstream to this proposed facility. The applicant and their consultants are taken as face value. There's no repercussions. So I'd like to understand kind of how any post-mortem issues would be addressed. Three, I think that some on my neighborhood, including me, would like to understand if there's been any payments made to anybody in the neighboring vicinity, just to understand kind of what, if anything, has been done there. Perhaps that's been the case in prior developments in this area. So we just like to, I'd like to ask that of the commission just to understand kind of what's been said. And three, I think in the previous meeting, Sandra and Tommy Conway made a very strong presentation. This presentation was in response to the applicants and their consultants' presentation. And that presentation was taken at face value and applauded. Yet I don't believe that there's been any response to the Conway's presentation, which I think raised many concerns over some of the aspects that I raised, as well as just the overall intentions and alignment of this proposed development with some of the existing tenants of the town and P&Z. So it surprised me that while that may have been a prior meeting, that those comments were made. Those were very strong and well-reasoned arguments, but they have not been addressed in my mind. So I'd ask that kind of those considerations be noted and addressed to the broader group. And with that, I'll conclude. You can see my letter in the public file, and would welcome the chance to further discuss this with anybody on the commission.
Great, thank you. Just as a question, John, do you remember the date that you sent your letter? It's not in the packet that I got today.
I sent it a week or 10 days ago. Mr. Ginsburg confirmed receipt via email.
Okay,
I'm happy to resend it.
If it's on your computer now, you can send that. Be great. One thing.
If it's on my computer, I'll send it.
It doesn't. It's we're all elected officials here. I just ran for a re-election, I could have dropped out. This is not an inconvenience at all. I actually like this stuff. I do it for a living and I enjoy working for the town and making the town right. So if my expressions look like it's an inconvenience, I apologize, but it's not. I enjoy this stuff. With regards to payments, what does that mean? I mean, no one's paid me anything.
Has the applicant or anybody associated with the applicant made any payments to anybody that could be influenced or at bay in the immediate vicinity of the road, whether it be on Parklands or on Fairmead or on the other neighboring streets?
That I would not know. All I can tell you is that no one on the commission has received any payments and no one in town hall has received any payments. Whether somebody gets, a new bush in their backyard, which happens all the time in our town, I have not the foggiest idea. That's, you can ask your neighbors. I don't know.
Okay, so that's on, just to be clear, that's on me to ferret that out.
Yeah, there's no hush payments around town hall. I can tell you that.
Okay. I've just heard differently, and I'm just surprised that that's thrown right back in my face. Again, maybe getting back to my first point at the tone of this, and that it's kind of the neighborhood and the residents against P&Z, and it's the burden is on us. It just seems like it's not so surprising to me. The burden's not the other way around.
I can answer. You're gonna have to mute it. Now, Mr. Huntington, what you're asking is whether the developer has written paid anyone on Fairmead or any other local road. Your accusation is not to the commission or staff. It's the question of whether the developer has given any money to anyone on the road. Is that your question?
Yeah, that's better said than I framed it, but yes, that's accurate. Sorry if that leaves everybody in silence, but appreciate the chance to speak.
Steve, you're muted.
There we go. I'm unmuted. John, did you hear Jeremy's statement?
Yeah, I heard him. I think he better framed the question that I had, and I agreed with how he framed it.
Okay. I will tell you, the inconvenient part about this is his Zoom stuff. If we were in town hall, it'd be a lot easier, but hopefully that happens someday. Who's up next? Anybody up next?
Anyone else? The people, everyone who has their hand up has spoken once before. So we'll start with the residents at Selleck's Woods people, or Martha Hawkins has not spoken before. We'll take Martha Hawkins.
Martha Hawkins, are you here?
She's on mute.
Martha, I think I'm told you're on mute, Martha Hawkins. Where are all these people? Do you know where she is?
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, there you go.
Okay. I'm a frequent visitor of Selleck Woods, probably 5 or more times a week, walking my dog. It's a great place.
What's your address?
Pardon me?
What is your address, please?
My address is 51 Mansfield Avenue.
Okay.
I'm a resident for about 22 years. I am a new dog owner adoptee with a friend who passed away, and I have her dog. And I walk in Selleck Woods 5 or 6 times a week. My question is, have you ever tried to leave Parkland Road and enter onto Kings Highway at anywhere from 2 to 4 o'clock in the afternoon to make a left-hand turn headed toward Route 1. It's a disaster. You're going to add another 100 cars there. God forbid, I would probably want to put a red jelly bean on the top of my car to get out of there. It's a real disaster situation, and I don't know if the traffic pattern has been addressed when you put in a lot of more residents here. It's a real safety issue. So, and Selleck Woods, it's fabulous. It's a wonderful place. Thank God that it's here in Darien, and I appreciate all that you guys do volunteering in your jobs, but really please address these traffic issues. It's really critical to the safety of the residents of this town. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate your comments. Just to reiterate, one of the benchmarks for a traffic study is the difference between an office building that exists today and an apartment building that's proposed. That's what the traffic study balances. And the conclusion of the traffic study that was reviewed again by 2 people says that an apartment building creates less traffic than an office building. That's what it is. It's certain during the peak hours of the day.
Well, I wonder if anyone has actually addressed the amount of vehicles that were leaving Parkland in their business area, as opposed to what would happen for people leaving with children in a residential, in that apartment complex and so forth. It's an entirely different scenario. It's just, I don't know. I'm not a traffic person and whatever, but I think these are things that need to be thought about.
No,
Thank
you're
you.
You're 100% agreed, and they do get thought about, and you don't have to be a traffic person to know that the traffic is heavy on the Post Road near where Duchess is, and they're going to change the use there.
Hey, Jim,
Okay.
hang out with
Thank
us
you, ma'am.
for like a few days and see what the traffic is like, and also come and see what the flooding is like.
Who's talking? Who's talking?
PJ Conrad, 6 Fairmead Road. I've invited you to come walk the property. I've invited you to come over and see the traffic. Come on over. We'd love you to come see it.
Thank you. I will try. I will try to go there when you're there.
Well, I'll be there anytime you tell me. Hit me up.
PJ 6 Fairmead. Okay.
Yes.
What do we got now?
I feel like you guys don't hear us. I feel like you don't care what we're saying.
It's PJ. The commission 100% understands what everybody's saying. I hear you 100%. I get it. You know, we've approved projects, we've denied projects. You know, in over the years, we've redone projects over the years. We've redesigned projects. You know, that's what the commission does. That's what you guys elect us to do.
But we have projects going on. Why do we need another one?
You can't regulate against that. I mean, the projects that have been going on, the Corbin district started 19 years ago. You know?
I know David very well.
So do I. I mean, everybody knows them, but you can't. These projects take a long time. These are not something that comes up and gets approved in 24 hours. You know, these things get looked at very hard and for a long, long time. And there's years that are behind this stuff. We knew about the development.
Or 3 meetings.
There's not years one.
But how come this meeting seems to be going so fast?
If I could, the commission has to hear applications that are submitted. So when someone submits an application, the commission is legally obligated to have this type of hearing and make a decision. So from that standpoint, If someone submits something, the commission has to hear it. How they ultimately vote is to be determined. And the point of the hearing tonight is to take evidence from the applicant and the public. And that's why we're listening to everyone tonight to take that evidence. But legally, we have to hear these applications.
And given the time constraints.
And there's also, as Mr. Olvani mentioned, specific time constraints. We have to start a public hearing within 65 days of receiving the application. We have 35 days to leave a hearing open with some continuation time granted by the applicant. We have to make a decision within 65 days of the close of the hearing. Those are state laws the commission needs to abide by. So there are very strict time frames that the commission needs to act within. We can't drag our feet. We can't decide not to hear an application, and we have to decide it in a timely manner, which is generally 65 days from the close of the hearing. So
we've already decided.
PJ, you gotta let me finish talking so I can explain it to the 118 people who are here.
Okay.
So that is why the commission is holding this hearing. So the 6 commission members, and it's 5 because Ms. Gately recused herself, have to hear the evidence from both the applicant and the public. Eventually, they have to close the hearing, and then they have to deliberate, and they have 65 days to make a decision. So
after the hearing closes.
Once the hearing closes. So while it's nice, and it might be interesting to drag this on for months and months, legally, the commission cannot do that. So legally, the commission cannot take in evidence after the close of a hearing. So once the hearing is closed, that's all the evidence the commission will be allowed to accept. Is whatever is put on the record by the applicant and their team, the outside experts, the peer reviewers, and the general public. So we are taking evidence tonight from everybody in an effort for the commission to come to a decision on this.
To come to a closing.
Right, to close the hearing.
You also have to get the extensions from.
Right. And one thing, because the public hearing on this started in October, again, it's opened October 19. The applicant has been kind enough to grant extension time to tonight to allow the hearing to continue to tonight. The commission would need a further extension of time by the applicant to go beyond tonight. The applicant can choose to grant the time. The applicant can choose not to grant the time. That is the way the state law is written.
Okay. Thank you, Jeremy.
We're looking for new or different information from people that haven't spoken before.
Correct. Is anyone new that would like to speak to the application? If you can keep your summons waving big time at the bottom and left-hand side. Who is that? That is Ken Gifford, I think.
It's actually Dot.
Dot Gifford. You don't look like a gentleman.
There you go. How are you, Steve?
Good, thanks.
I'm going to be very brief. I'm Dot Gifford. I live at 26 Wakeman Road. I have listened to all of these meetings. I agree with everything that all the residents around me and my neighbors have said about density and traffic. I do believe that traffic study was done when the bridge was closed, which is crazy. We couldn't drive that way, so it's really ridiculous, but whatever. I've believed studies before with other projects that have gone on in my neighborhood, and it is what it is. I believe everything that everyone's talking about on the impact of the schools, conserving all of our limited land. I even very much agree with you, Steve, that the residence at Selleck Woods is lovely, but it was constructed at the expense of my neighbors on Fairmead. It's there, it is what it is. But one point that I don't think was raised at all, and as I sit here today watching this meeting, I received my information from Post 53, and we sit here talking about adding almost 300 new apartments in our town. And I have not heard one person make reference to the fact that at this particular juncture, between 2019 and 2021, without the 300 new apartments, the calls in Post 53 are up 23%. It went from 1,500 and something to over 1,800. And I'm just curious, has anybody thought about who's coming to save us when we have a heart attack or get hit by a car or get in a traffic accident on Old Kings Highway North when all this additional traffic comes in? That's all. Just another point I'd like you to think about. I'm not sure. It doesn't seem as though you guys have given that any consideration. Alex Jackson brought up hazardous waste and that kind of thing, but this is something that's much more likely, not that that couldn't happen, but more likely to impact everyone on this side of town. And the whole town in general, if Post 53's resources are stretched that thin. So just curious what your thoughts are on that.
No, you're definitely right. As you may know or remember, my daughter was a vice president and executive officer of Post 53. My wife also works at Atria. Atria and Selleck Woods are two of the Post 53's best customers.
I know my daughter, Post as well. Adult supervisor.
My wife there. We can't regulate that. You know, we did add paramedics to Post 53 the last year. You know, it's one of the developments also has a low portico share, on it, which is Maplewood, and the ambulance doesn't fit underneath it. You know, we're trying to do our job, and do we look at all that stuff? Yeah, but I can't deny an application because of the Post 53 needs to add another shift.
It's not another shift, Steve. It's if this happens, who's gonna? I mean, we're basically saying, come move to Darien. There's a good chance nobody's coming if something happens to your kid. Your kid chokes, your kid falls off their skateboard. And I would think the town as a whole has to look at this entire situation, not just whether we should put up more apartment buildings that we're not even sure can be filled, but if they are filled, what's going to happen when there's an emergency? That's all, just food for thought, something to let you guys think about when you go to sleep tonight.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I speak for a moment? This is Leslie.
We'll circle back to you in a second, Leslie. There's a Mr. Berry that hasn't spoken yet.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you. Is there Mr. Berry?
Hi, guys. Thank you, Steve. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can't see. I think I got you. Yep.
Peter Berry, 26 Brush Island Road.
Hey, what's up, Peter?
Steve, if you could just clarify what Craig said earlier and kind of with Jim Rand's question as well about the drainage. So is the drainage going to go into Dunlap Lake? Is that where it's going?
We'll let Craig respond to that one. Craig's taking note. Is that it, Peter?
Oh, and then my second question was in terms of the conservation easement, and Jeremy, maybe this is very easy to explain. Given when the initial building was built, the conservation easement was in relation to the building. Is that how it works when a conservation easement is kind of set aside like that? So if the building expands, the percentage of the conservation easement is obviously decreasing relative to the physical building space. Is that right?
There's no requirement in the zoning regulations to provide conservation easement. That was provided long ago. There is no requirement in the regulations to increase it proportionately. I believe on the plan it does show that they are adding to it a little bit, but there is no requirement in the regulations to add to it proportionally.
Okay. Thank you.
Did that answer your question? Okay.
Yes.
Thanks, Peter. Who do we got next? Anybody else next on your list?
I think we're just going to finish up with, these are all, do you want to go?
Is anybody that wants to speak not spoken? Yes. Ingrid Hess has got her hand up again. She's on
Alex Woods that haven't spoken.
She's on my recall list. Peter, this was Leslie, and then are there people from Selleck Woods and the residents at Selleck Woods? There, she up top. I got it.
I think
right
there's
here.
one person
I see.
on behalf of the group.
Selleck Woods engagement. Go right ahead. I see you waving your hand.
Go ahead, Chair.
Personally, before I read my statement, I go out the end of the road on Parklands Drive in the morning between 9 and 10. I count 12 to 18 cars before I can come out of our driveway. Okay. We at Select Woods residents want a shadow survey done by Darien LLC, the owner of 3 Parklands Drive, who wants to build a 60-apartment, 3-story building on 86,000 square feet. We want your survey to evaluate the effects shadows have on parks and neighborhoods. Good design should enhance, not smother a neighborhood. Darien LLC has not covered a report which addresses shadows the structure we will create as of yet. Has anyone on the planning board asked for a shadows survey? The proposed project will negatively affect our microenvironment by casting large shadows and blocking views and sunlight on our adjacent property. Their tall 60-apartment structure, along with some level for parking, will have to house 100 cars. That'll be terrific, trying to get out of this little driveway onto the road, which is already overwhelmed with traffic. The cars will wall off Selleck Woods, the residential Selleck Woods and Fairmead Road. There will be a temperature decrease as light is cut off and shadows take over. The dark shadows will jeopardize enjoyment of the open space and parks. Dark shadows will make it too dark for children after school or on the weekends. Daylight and the town's cherished green space needs to be protected. It is a necessity for mental health to have sunshine. And dark shadows cast over Selleck Woods and neighboring Dunlop Woods has a negative impact on the town's open space. The impact on the long-term implications on the health of mature trees, the survival of our animal life, our flora and fauna, and the impact on human comfort should have importance in the zoning board's decision. There needs to be respect and concern for the importance of sunshine. This proposal of 60 apartment structure is not environmentally sound. We basically don't want it. It's just too much. If this proposal is going through in any way, shape, or form, it needs to be downsized. And it needs to be downsized to the current office structure that is standing there now. They can gut the inside, remodel it, and get a few apartments in, and eliminate a 4-month blasting of solid granite at the end of our street, which one can just imagine it would be like for our memory care wing residents who face that granite boulder. So whatever your decision is, if it's going to go, we want less, not more. Please listen to us. We the people speak. Ken?
Jack. Well, I can, but I mean.
All right.
Okay.
Go ahead, Jack.
My name is Jack Rams. I and my wife have been residents at Selleck Woods for over 2 years. Our apartment overlooks the current outside parking area associated with the 3 Parklands buildings. The project, as currently proposed by the applicant, will have a very serious negative impact on our living experience in Selleck Woods, both in the short term and in the long term. My wife was diagnosed several years ago to have Alzheimer's. As you probably know, Alzheimer's disease is a progressive, very destructive, incapacitating disease that currently has no medical cure. Today, the primary social medical protocol recommended to manage the negative impact of this disease is an aggressive control of the surrounding in which the patient lives. This control effort is focused primarily on minimizing factors contributing to any increase in the patient's level of anxiety and or disorientation. My wife is currently in what is diagnosed as mid-stage phase of Alzheimer's. Unfortunately, short-term sudden changes in her surroundings result in significant and immediate increases in her level of anxiety and disorientation. My wife is particularly sensitive to sudden, startling changes in noise levels. Clearly, the noise associated with the tear down of the current 3 Parklands building and the early phases of the new construction, with all of its truck traffic, will be very problematic to us. Any blasting associated with the project would be particularly troublesome. Now, in addition, Alzheimer's studies clearly suggest that changes in the patient's anxiety level triggers noticeable increases in the rate of the disease's long-term progression. We moved to Selleck Woods so that my wife's living surroundings could be substantially controlled and stabilized. I like to say that my wife now lives in a very controlled and comfortable bubble. Controlling this stability is nearly the only proactive step now available for the management of my wife's Alzheimer's disease. Of course, we recognize that some change to the 3 Parklands Drive building will inevitably occur. But the size of the project currently proposed by the applicant seems so disproportionate to the size of the land parcel, the very limited road access to the site, and the very, very close proximity to an extremely vulnerable and sensitive Selleck Woods resident population with dementia issues, particularly Alzheimer's. Currently, there are 12 residents in the Reflections Memory Care Wing at the Selleck Woods facility. The Reflections Memory Care Wing is just over 60 yards from the edge of the proposed 3 Parklands construction project. That's about 1/2 the length of a football field. That is very, very close indeed to a tremendously vulnerable group of residents. The residents in the memory care wing of the Selleck Woods will certainly have their current tranquil living experience significantly disrupted because of this project. We request that the Zoning and Planning Commission ask the applicant to go back to the drawing board and significantly reduce the size of the 3 Parklands proposed redevelopment effort. Thank you for your attention and for allowing me to speak.
Ken?
My name is Ken Heekin. I'm a resident at Selleck Woods Residence. I'm 91 years old. The residents speaking here tonight, the 3 of us, are representing a great number of other residents who live here. It's, in a way, a heavy responsibility. And I'm so glad that Jack spoke so poignantly of he and his wife's situation, and certainly making it come alive for me, and I hope for you. There's a lot of anxiety in this building, and I'm fearful that I won't be able to enable you to understand the fragility of our condition. A married couple, friends of mine, within the last couple of weeks, have each been separately hospitalized. Their existence is that treacherous. Everybody, well, it's my contention anyway, that everybody here suffers from some degree of dementia, including me. About a month ago, I went to the emergency room at the hospital to see if I may have had a concussion. I learned two interesting things from the resident physician who engaged me as we were about to leave. She told me, number one, that my CAT scan had been read in Australia, which I had no idea of, but apparently their labs are open when ours are closed. And she also told me that she could see the degeneration of my brain on my CAT scan. I thought she could have been a little more gentle in providing this information, but I suppose it's important that I know, and it does support my contention. I've noticed with some of my friends, something that Jack alluded to, that dementia seems to go along on sort of a steady course, reducing slightly over time. And then all of a sudden it will kind of fall off a cliff, and the symptoms will become much more pronounced. And those friends will move from my section of the residence to the memory care unit. The representative for the development said that Darien is promoting diversity in housing with senior living surrounded by younger neighbors. That's not really who we are. My children are candidates for senior living. I'm something else. I'm at the extreme end of that arc, and I am ready. I will not go anyplace else after Selleck's Woods. It's not well understood, but we're a small sliver of the senior population. We're really a new demographic. I don't think even the medical profession has had that much opportunity to study us. We probably know more about ourselves than anyone else does. The present environment here at Selleck's Woods works well for us. It's peaceful and protected, appropriate to our condition. The proposed project is a disaster for us. People our age do not seek to settle by a construction site. Dirt, noise, commotion, ugliness, and yes, even danger. Bulldozers and walkers don't really mix well. And then there's the complex itself. The density alone will change the nature of our outdoors forever. And as for the traffic increase, that will be actually hazardous for ourselves at our stage of life. Please make the effort to understand our situation and its requirements as you deliberate the future of this site.
Thank you. I think that's it from Selleck's Woods.
Fantastic. Hey, Ken, for a guy that's 91 years old, you're pretty on board, man. I wish I could be as good as you when I'm 91.
Yeah, well, there's still that CAT scan lurking out there.
Don't worry about it. I've had a CAT scan too. Mine doesn't look pretty. We have on my short list for repeat speakers, I have Tim Henry, Tina, I think Leslie Nolte, Ingrid Hess, and Evan Flynn. Those and Mr. Passamarty. Okay, so that's 6 comebacks, Mr. Passamarty. It is now 10:23. So 6 times 30 minutes is another 18 minutes. 6 times 5 minutes is another 30 minutes. All 6 of you, the people I just mentioned, would you all like to speak? If your camera's on, you say yes. That'd be great.
I'll be very quick.
Who's that? Is that Tim Henry?
I'm sorry. I wanted to talk and I haven't spoken.
Okay. I thought that was Leslie. Go ahead, ma'am.
No, no.
I will I'm going to pass. This is Leslie. I'll pass. Thank you.
All right,
Okay.
Leslie.
So my name is Ingrid Rodriguez. I just wanted to, I live in 46 Fairview Avenue. I go frequently to Selleck Woods. actually almost every day. And actually, I collect trash in the lake. There's a lot of trash that ends up there. So I really love the Selleck Woods, and I'm just concerned that this project, it seems like it's massive, and I'm just concerned that it will affect the habitat of the park itself and all the animals that live there, as well as all the other things that have been mentioned. I just wanted to say that.
Thank you, Ingrid. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
I think we got everybody. We got all first timers.
Yep.
We got all first timers, right? So now we're going to second timers. So we have Tim, Tina, Ingrid, Evan Flynn, and Mr. Passamarty. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We got 3 minutes each for 5 people. It's 15 minutes. Maybe we'll get out of here at 11:15. There's another item on the agenda, but we got to tell the applicant we're not going to get to them. Right? Okay. All right. So let's go with Tina LaRoe. You want to go first? Can you keep it to 3 minutes, Tina?
I'll try. I just want
to. It's for the benefit of your other neighbors. You know.
I know. So I just want to answer some questions that were brought up and make a few points. One is that Mr. Rand brought up a couple of things that I think are really important. When he was asking about the bridge that the people fixed, if it fails, what happens? And I think that that's what we're all trying to get at with this drainage plan. I'm not looking for an editorial comment or a reason about I don't need you to respond. I just want to get these things out so it goes on the record. We have had failure. You don't understand how flooding at the new building will impact PJ Conrad. When you walk Fairmead Road is a swale. It ends at PJ's house. And I own a property across from her, and I watch the water race down my driveway into her house. It also, when we had that big storm on September 1st, because we have the clay soil, it raced down Fairmead Road into her house and the Huntington's house. So the geography of our street is such as if there is flooding that comes off the east side of the new building, which shows, by the way, no drainage. So when you ask this applicant to rework the drainage, which I'm sure you will based on the information you received, I would ask them to add some drainage to the east side. 2, they did the soil. They had a soil scientist over there, but he didn't do soil tests. You have clay soil. We brought it up before. The permeable, the whole water retention plan he has, I've had my own engineer review it. I would like to have this meeting extended because he would like to send in his review, and he could not do it in 3 days' time. But he has reviewed what you reviewed, and he doesn't like it. And I want him to be able to write something. So he'll be getting back to you. And I think water runs downhill. We know that. Craig Flaherty said that. And so I think we really need to have that review looked at by a separate set of eyes. Next, the traffic study. The traffic study was not done just when the bridge was actually, I don't know if it was closed or open, but we looked at it, and the traffic study was done actually during the pandemic when everyone was being homeschooled. There was absolutely nobody on the road that day. I did my own traffic study. I sat there for 9 hours and I counted literally quadruple the number of cars. There are people walking up and down Parklands and Fairmead all the time. The traffic study is bogus. We're all tired of talking about it. We're putting that one to bed. You know that's bogus. So soil samples, the traffic study. The next thing that we asked you, Steve, and I know Craig Flaherty knows this number. So the lot coverage that you are implying is incorrect. The lot coverage, and I believe there was a representative from Selleck's, or not Selleck, the residents might be on the phone here. I don't know what his name was, but he was on. The lot coverage of this new building at Selleck's Woods on the buildable portion is 90%. That's 90% lot coverage. If you include the conservation easement, it's at 70% lot coverage. The new building, and Craig Flaherty, feel free to correct me because I know you're on here, but the new building is 100% lot coverage on the buildable portion. And the balance is conservation easement. So don't tell us that the lot coverage is going from 25 to 23% because you're mixing a lot coverage on the whole 7 acres and you're including the pond. So I really resent that misinformation. Let's get that correct. Next thing is the pergola. I talked to 4 or 5 people in wheelchairs in the last few days. that pergola that they're putting up so that can be, so people in wheelchairs can sit under a pergola and look at the park is so insulting to them. I said, pick up the phone and call town hall. They're like, oh no, because we get services from the town. You know who they are. I know who they are. They're like, if we want to look at the nature, build us a ramp and take us into the park. Those people used to come to my house on Fairmead Road and park, and they could go into the park down Fairmead Road as far as to where I call it the Chris Filmer shed, but you know, the shed that's on the Fairmead Road entrance. That used to be maintained, and Darien Parks and Rec would come over and put aggregate on it, and that was wheelchair accessible. These people cannot get in the park, and to give them, that's the worst kind, it's called ableism, and that kind of ableism is just really insulting to them. So just take that money, if you redo this plan, take that money and put it somewhere else. Bob Gillen did a presentation in front of Parks and Rec and told them all about this great pergola. And that's called vigorish, guys. He's just giving us a bribe. Are you kidding me? Someone else brought up money. So I'm going to just jump to the money that traded hands here. When the residents at Selleck's Woods was put up, they did give money to, I believe it was the Land Trust, 25, or maybe it's the Friends of Selleck's Woods, one or the other. They gave $25 to each person that attended. That's actually fairly normal for these buildings. I've heard of that in the past, but I don't know what Bob Gillen's promised to people. I asked him to buy my house for $2 million and you wouldn't have to hear from me. So I just wanted to just get a few of these points out.
Keep it civil. Keep it civil.
Hold on. And the other thing I want to talk about is the unintended consequences. We've all complained about the water, but there's something else that's happening, and that's the global warming has changed the amount of rain we had. So these 500-year rains and 100-year floods, it's total crap. Every time we have a rain, we get runoff from the I-95 parking, I-95 rest stop was going into Dunlop Lake, and I believe it was the Land Trust, and I'm sure it was Chris Filmer because he's been so fabulous with Selleck's Woods and made it just such a special place, and everyone applauds him for the work he's done over there. They got booms to put in to keep the oil out of the critical wetland habitat. So now we're going to use Dunlop Lake as the runoff. It's been being used, untreated water, so cars leak oil, cars leak antifreeze, and it's just going into the lake. Are you kidding me? I mean, so we need the shade study, obviously. We need some other sort of water something. I mean, you just can't have the water going into the lake. What's the point of putting the booms in there? So I'm just a little upset at all these things. I feel like it's been a very contentious meeting. I feel like every time someone says everything, Mr. Olivani, I'm not picking on you, but you do come back and you respond. We have heard through the grapevine that the decision has already been made that you are going to approve this. We heard it from friends of yours. We're very upset that a decision has been made. I hope that's not true. I like to think you're listening to the citizens of the town. We know that you're all volunteering. It's a very tough job, but this proposed project is enormous. And it's not just the park that's getting hurt. When that building is high, everything on the north side of the building is going to die. It's already dying. All the trees that were planted behind our house, they're dying because there's no sun. The residence was very nice. They let me put a drip irrigation up there. We talked to the environmental whatever, and they said, okay, you can put in more trees. They're already dying. So don't tell us that this big tall tree isn't going to kill the plant life. It will. And on top of which, instead of making a nice area for people to sit outside, it's on the residential north side in the shade. I mean, this plan needs to be reworked. Thank you very much for your time. Next.
Great, thank you, Tina. Appreciate it. Yep. Tim Henry, you're still here? There he is.
Yeah. Hey everyone. Thanks for letting me speak. So I'm going to try to cut my little spiel very short. Am I going to have time to email what I can't get through just so we can, keep this?
Why don't you email it as you're talking?
Okay. I'm not that smart. I'll try. All right. So first of all, I just want to say, because the people from Selleck's are on, I just want to say, a lot has been spoken about the facility that you live in. I just want to be clear that no one is speaking about you. You are valued members of our community. I have parents, I have grandparents, so just want to make that clear. So just to move on, you know, I think you've heard from all my neighbors the passion that they have about opposing this facility. This isn't from fear of the unknown. This is not from, you know, some unfounded fear. This is from a lived experience, from a project that got built 3 years ago and has now had a tremendous impact on their lives right now. You know, we've been told that multifamily has a positive impact on value, and all I keep hearing from the families on the west side of Fairmead is they love their homes less now that these developments are allowed to take place. So just a small anecdote. I would ask that you take a look at this project as a whole. What this is a multi-phased construction process for a single 165 unit multifamily project. It's just broken out into two pieces. So when we hear about 60 units on a 4-acre site and about 15 acres per 15 units per acre, pardon me, you know, that's very misleading. There's another 4-acre site with 105 units on it. So I did a very detailed model. I'm not sure if I'm going to share my screen. This should be very quick, but
He muted himself, Steve.
You muted yourself, Tim. I think you also froze yourself. No, you're back.
All right, man. Let me see if I can share my screen real quick. If not,
definitely send this in, whatever you're going to show us.
Yeah, well, it's not working. But basically, what I wanted to share was, you know, Redness and Mead talks about this as being a low density development at 15 units per acre. You know, when you include the senior living facility at 105 units on 4 acres, that's 21 units per acre. The Heights, the Avalon, Kensett, and East Lane are some of the comps that I was able to pull. The Heights and the Avalon, the scale of those projects is similar to this project. Kensett is, you know, kind of similar in that it's further away from the train station. And East Lane, I can throw a rock at it right now. It's right there. So that's probably the closest comp. In order of density, the Heights is 10.1 units per acre. The Avalon, 5.9 units per acre. Kensett, 4.2 units per acre. And East Lane per Craig Flaherty is 13 units per acre. So if I take the densest of those communities, which is East Lane, and apply that same density to this 8-acre site, I get to 103 units or 103 units. So if you look at this site as a whole, which we should, this 8-acre parcel is already 2 units overbuilt. So I really want you to take that into consideration as we discuss adding 60 more units, which would take the density of this 8-acre site to 21 units per acre, which is on par with many of the developments that Redness and Mead brought up that are on Post Road, which frankly, you can't compare what's on Post Road. This is a neighborhood. So it's overbuilt, plain and simple. And then my last point is on the traffic study. You know, I know this has been, you know, talked about a lot. I think the conclusion that was made from the traffic study is that this would be a net decrease in traffic. But car count is kind of an irrelevant number. I mean, when I'm going to work in the morning, I care who's going in the direction that I'm going. And what the study does tell us is that in the morning, more cars are going to be leaving this development, adding to traffic, going to the train station, going to Stamford and New York City where people work, going onto the highway. This is more people going to work and more people coming back in the afternoon. So, I mean, a net decrease in cars is completely irrelevant. What matters is, you know, that when I'm going to the train station getting dropped off in the morning today, without this development, I can have my wife stop in front of Starbucks, run in, pick up my coffee, get back in the car, and she's still right there. So adding more traffic going in that same direction, that's the metric that we need to look at, not a net impact. I don't care who's going in the other direction of traffic at the peak hour. It's irrelevant. So if you're taking cars off the road going in the direction away from traffic, who cares? So the impact per the study is negative. So I think that's all I have. I just ask that you pay attention to the absolutely overwhelming opposition from the public to this development as presented. So thank you.
Thanks, Tim. Appreciate it. Who do we got next? Let's go with Mr. How about Evan Flynn? You still there? Evan's in the middle. You're in the middle.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep, gotcha.
I will do this quickly.
What's your address again, Evan?
Oh, sorry, 1 Fairmead Road. I am having technological problems, but I have gone out and videoed for over the course of about 10 days, all different times of the day, and actually put the traffic on video. One of the things that the traffic study doesn't do is even factor in East Lane or Fairmead. And when you have the getting on of the highway, there's a lot of people going in and out. So I just sent 3 of the videos randomly right now to Jeremy, which I hope that can be used as evidence. And they're really telling. I know they're a couple of minutes long, but you really get a sense of how much traffic there is, and also the walkers that are going by, or the school buses, etc. And then to Mr. Rand's point in the very beginning of the meeting with the runoff and the pipe, I also sent in a picture, which it was taken a couple of weeks ago, but you can go there now, and you can see the runoff from the building in front of the service station. You can see the mud that is dried into the actual road to see that it's not being channeled in a pipe in any way. So I just want those 2 pieces of evidence to be acknowledged or accepted into the file.
Forward it on.
Got it. Thank you. We got your videos. Thank you.
Thanks.
And did you send a picture of that muddy pipe? You got a picture of muddy pipe. Okay, I think I got it. All right. Mr. Passamardi, you still here? There he is, in the middle.
Hi. So I've actually already sent a letter, so I won't repeat what I wrote in the letter because you guys have read them all. So the few points that I didn't write in the letter, which are, listening to all the people, my neighbors and other people talk, it's this, the trees are going to be really affected by the big building, a much bigger building than we have now. And, they might put new plants, but the thing is, if the trees are not going to get any sun, they're all going to die. So we already have a major problem with, we can see the senior center, we can see, it's a total day and night difference between when we moved here 9 years ago, what we have now. And, something has to be done about it. A study would be great to enable what the effects of tall building would be on the trees on that side. And also, there's so many people on these calls. I mean, I hope the committee is going to look into that and see that so many people are passionate against this project that you would consider that. Those are my main issues that are not on my letter. And also, I just want to let you know that Sandra Conway also wants to talk, but she hasn't been able to catch your eyes when she waves. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Who else have we done? Ingrid Hess, do you want to add something again?
Yes, just very quickly. As a trained person to listen to both sides, I can see how in the beginning we felt like this was a done deal on your side, and like you were going to vote for it, and we were just being criticized for the points that were being brought up, and it sounded very frustrating from the point of view of the residents presented their points. I think that as the night has gone on and everybody has presented the points, I think you have all the points to deliberate on. And I really, knowing somebody as dear as Jim Rand, it is to me, and Jeremy, and the rest of the team that I really don't know, but I voted for you. I want to thank you, and you have actually given me some real hope when you said that it took 19 years to get the Corbin district done, because that means that you probably will be considering all the points that have been made, and that this is not a done deal that you're going to vote for it, like the perception was, at least that I saw in the beginning, that it was a fait accompli and that we had nothing we could do about it. So I am very hopeful that, like I'm sure everybody is feeling like this right now, that you will be very seriously considering all the different points of view that have been presented. And Jeremy, I really want to thank you for the beautiful civics lesson and explaining to us how the local government works, because most of us are very ignorant about it. And we really don't know. We're just residents with no education or training in any of this, and trying to do the best we can based on the little that we know. We know that you know a lot more than we do, and we appreciate that. So I really know that you probably feel very beaten up, and it's just too bad. But like everybody has said it already, we feel very passionate about it, that this is not good for the town. But I wanted to thank you for your work, because you're working very hard, and I know the kind of headache that Jeremy has in his hands, and this is not what we're trying to do to Jeremy or to the rest of you. But I just wanted to say that we appreciate your work, and that I really sincerely hope that you will take every point that has been brought up, and by now everything is repetitive. We all know the problems, we know all the main points of what's going on, and that you will seriously consider it. And what gives me hope again is the fact that this might take a little bit of time, which is what was my point at the beginning when I first spoke. Let's take a breather and see how things develop, and maybe time will help us actually make the correct decision rather than something rushed. And that's it for me. Thank you very much, and I look forward to hearing what will be done, or how this develops, and more work needs to be done on it. I mean, we are totally against it, and the way we see it right now is not something that's good for us, and we're all hoping that you do not approve it. But if it has to be approved, that there will be a lot of thought and work, like you always put into all the work, because I did live through the David Genevieve's project with the Corbin Drive, and I know it took a long, long time, and it was a lot of work for you too. And we're very grateful for that. And hopefully you do the same thing for this, even though it seems like a very small project compared to the other projects, but it just has the same impact on the residents. So thank you for your time and your effort and the work you're putting into it. And we hope that you will really listen and consider every single point that has been made. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. And thank you, Jeremy. Sandra Conway, are we going to keep you for last? Look at her. She's all happy, smiling.
Can you hear me? I don't know. I don't see the wave sign. I'm sorry. So I was just kind of going like this.
I can see you perfectly. You're doing great.
Okay. Thanks.
Are you gonna, let me just ask, is there anybody that wants to speak after Sandra?
Yes, I would like to.
Okay, and what's your name, ma'am?
Alexis Wagner.
Got it, okay. All right, Sandra.
New or different?
I'm 21 Fairmead Road, if you don't know by now. I just want to thank everybody for taking the time to, listen to all of our comments and concerns. And I do have another presentation, but I'm just going to submit it, I think, because I don't want to take too much of everybody's time. I will say, though, that I want to thank Craig for clarifying the floodplain argument, because I think in my presentation I did mention that. However, I do really want to also clarify, even though it wasn't in a floodplain, what I pointed out in my last presentation was that Dunlap Woods in our area is in a red zone. So it's very slow infiltration rates. And I understand it might not be a floodplain, but according to page 62 of the POCD, it's still an area of concern for the town. And I just want to make sure that the committee looks at that once again. I understand there's been a drainage study and several other people have looked at it. And please correct me if I'm wrong. Everything I've read shows that the east side has not been looked at. It's always been the west side. And unfortunately, we get flooding. And my biggest concern is when there's an application here, to regrade. They're going to push the parking lot out another foot or so. That changes the whole topography of the land. So while they don't think it's a concern right now, once you start adding elevation, regrading, changing the topography of the land, I'm just really concerned that not looking at the east side at all, which is the Fairmead side, is really the right thing to do. The next thing I want to talk about, and Jeremy, maybe you can help me with this. It's in the zoning regulations. It's 1003, and it says that there needs to be written recommendations of the Connecticut Department of Transportation, if applicable. And I'm not quite sure if this is applicable because the I-95 corridor is right there. So does that affect?
Ms. Conway, I can answer that. It would not be applicable since Parklands Drive is not a state highway. If this was on the Post Road or Hoyt Street or Mansfield Avenue, they would need DOT approval for the curb cut or street opening or driveway. So it would not be applicable in this case.
It's already got sent to the other people, right? Not Swerko, whatever.
Well, we talked to Captain Shredders about the stop bar. You may recall that issue.
Okay. We'll let her finish. Okay, Sandra?
I have another, Mr. Ovani, I have one question.
Sure.
Do you consider these 60 apartments on this 3.9 acres high density or moderate density?
15 dwelling units is in the grand scheme of Fairfield County is moderate. It's not low. It's not low, and it's not 30, which is the city. I mean, I testified.
60. I mean, this is 60. So is 60 on the 3 acres moderate or high?
For Darien.
It's moderate.
For Darien, it's moderate. Okay. The other thing I want to talk about is basically, since we are going into a lot of people talk about traffic. I understand that. I'm not going to readdress that. And I don't understand how the committee takes a lot of the neighbors' firsthand knowledge of it. But I will say you did bring up Michael Galante's name. And I just want to restate it again, that he mentioned, unless there was some better local information in his information. And I think the neighbors have provided that for you. He also marked an F on the LOS, 113 minutes to get out of Parklands Drive. That's not acceptable, and that's on the current study that he provided. So I will hope that the committee.
It's 113 seconds, right? Not
Seconds,
minutes?
right.
Okay.
Almost, it's a long time. And if you've ever tried to pull out of Parklands in the middle of the afternoon, you'll see that. So please take a look at Michael Galante's study one more time. I have to say, I don't look at any of the applicant studies. I was shocked to see that every single study the applicant provided, not once did a study say, oh, there's a problem here or there's an issue here. It was just this glowing review. And I appreciate the town bringing up an independent study so we can take a look at that. My only concern is, are the independent studies just reviewing the applicant's study, or are they doing their own study?
It depends.
In this case, they did not do an outside separate study. They reviewed the applicant's information as it pertains to either local zoning regulations or typical review standards. So they would point out issues or concerns. They would not do a whole nother
That's
study.
where my concern goes, because they're not doing an individual study, especially with the drainage. I'd really encourage the committee to do an independent study, not take their study, because I know you're proud of the building behind us, Mr. Mulvaney, and I'm sure it works great for the town, but there were issues in definitely water drainage. So I would really like to request that the committee consider that also. And I also would like the committee, when they're doing their special permit, to take a look at how the east side has been taken care of in screening, in drainage like studies, how they're looking at the Fairmead roadside, because it really is interesting to see a lot of the trees are there, even though there's a big section of trees that need to be removed on their property for that emergency road. I don't see a big screening going on the east side. So please consider that when you're looking at this application. And listen, I am pro-development. I am not anti-development. I have a family of developers. Every developer pads their development by a third. We all know that. And I believe the people in back of us, the building in back of us, have they ever truly been 100% capacity? I don't believe so. If they had their third cut like they probably should have been, I think they would be at full capacity. And I'm not asking that this developer completely cancel their, it's just not realistic. He's allowed to develop his land if he wants to. But I am asking that the committee really take a look at the number. And I understand he authored the office overlay zone specifically for his property, and it's brilliant. And I think Craig Flaherty is brilliant. He knows the zoning regulations inside and out, and he's really worked it to his client's benefit. But I know this P&Z committee is just as savvy, and you know all the tricks in the book, and you know that this project can be cut at least by 30%. I guarantee you, we would not all be on these calls for the last 3 months if the developer did the right thing and developed appropriately. This is all about overdevelopment. It's not about multifamily housing. It's not about the affordable housing. It's all about overdevelopment. And I have to say one more thing, and then I'll end, is that I had to go to Baywater's project, who I really consider a reputable developer in our area, who's building our downtown area in a considerate way. And I had to go to his documents to see the transparency from what is a building that's three stories high really look like. This applicant never gave us from dirt to rooftop. We had to filter through. I ended up, it's 50 feet tall. That's how high it's going to be. And I had to go to a reputable developer to really figure out, this isn't my line of work, so I'm trying to figure it out. And I just think in future, there needs to be more transparency with this. I understand he's trying to get this project through, and I think the lawyer does a fabulous job, and he does in selling the program. But my biggest concern is I want P&Z to help us understand really what this is, so we're not shocked the next time a building comes out like that. I'll submit the document for record, so you don't have to go through the whole PowerPoint, but it does go through the special permit process, and I just pulled out some key elements of the special permit, section 1005A, D, E, some things that I hope the committee will really consider, as well as a couple things in the zoning regulations under Article 1 purposes. I think there's some key things that, in addition to the POCD and the special permit and the zoning regulations, there's a lot in here that is not consistent for our town and for this project. And I just really hope the committee will reduce the density. And I think you will have a nice balance of happy neighbors, a happy community, and a happy developer. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Sandra. There was one other person that had not spoken that wants to speak. It was an I or an L. There she. Oh, it was Alexis, right? There you go.
Yes, sir. Sorry, a little bit
You're
under
the
the weather.
anchor of the staff, Alexis.
Bringing it home. Good evening. Thank you all for your time tonight. I know that to say this is inconvenient is an understatement on both sides. Nobody wants to be doing this, but it's a necessary conversation. Although I'm a young girl, definitely not a Boy Scout, I just wanted to step up here tonight to be an additional voice, maybe one of the younger voices in condemning this project.
Alexa, a project. Can you give me your last name and also your address?
Oh, yes, Wagoner, and it's 29 Cliff Avenue.
Great. Go ahead. Thank you.
I have lived in Darien for my entire life, and my parents and I take family walks in Sellex multiple times a week. I live right behind the park, and I even lived on Fairmead for a little bit. And when I lived on Fairmead, even from my current residence on Cliff Avenue, I can bear witness to the horrific traffic that happens today before the apartments have been built. And I can also bear witness to the water runoff. As somebody who currently lives between Tokenique Road and Old Kings Highway, I cannot expect anything less than an increase in traffic. I can't even imagine with how bad it already is. I've heard so many arguments and so many voices that have spoken powerful words. I feel like the residents are speaking their minds, and I beg of you guys to listen to them. More families, does that mean one day we'll need another middle school or high school? How far does this go? What are the needs of the current members of this town? I urge you guys to listen to their voices before you make room for more voices that you will then perhaps not listen to in meetings like these. Let's slowly increase the size of our community and address the needs as they come up before being hit with hundreds of more people all at once. You guys spoke about the other apartments being built right now. That's a lot going on at once. And another point, my final point, because I want to keep this short, the cellular service. It's such a my generation type thing to bring up, but wouldn't an influx of this many families drain the connection more? Already it's not good in this area at all. I can't imagine more congestion makes the cell service better. Thank you. I just wanted to have some representation for my generation in this discussion, but thank you.
Cool. Thank you. I appreciate that, Alexis. I think we got everybody that wanted to speak. It's been a couple times. I don't think we missed anybody. Go. Mr. Craig Flaherty and Bill Hennessy, are you guys still here?
Yep.
There's Bill Hennessy. There's Craig Flaherty. Fantastic. Craig, there were a couple questions that you were taking notes. Do you mind if you try to answer them now? Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Thanks.
So
it is 11:05, but
Yeah, no, let's just take the time and get it done. That's fine. So I'll share this screen. So there were a number of questions from Ms. Tallis that were similar in nature to questions posed by Ms. Thoreau at the first hearing relative to coverage, size, what counts, what was the previous coverage, what's the new coverage. Most of those answers were provided in our response document dated November 3rd. And there are a couple of exhibits included in that November 3rd document. One was Exhibit C, another was Exhibit, where is the next one? Exhibit D, Sheet 3. So in here, this was dated November 3rd. It's been in the record for a month. We go over not only the zoning height of the existing office building, but the apparent height of the existing office building, as well as the multifamily housing building, as well as the residence at Celix Woods. We go over the footprint, we go over the gross floor area. All that data was provided here a month ago. So if the commission needs to reference it in their considerations, they can go to these two exhibits. But very particularly, we looked at all of the questions Tina asked, which is what was the building coverage and site coverage just for Unit 1? What was the building coverage and site coverage if you took out the pond? What was the building coverage and site coverage if you took out the conservation areas? And at the end of the day, even on the remaining lands, we comply with the building coverage standard and the developed area standard, even though that's not the way zoning calculates these matters. So that information was all there. Back before everything was developed, I think the site was a 9.2% building coverage. It went up to a 23.8% building coverage when the assisted living facility was built. And we're proposing to take that from 23.8 today to 25 tomorrow. So those are, I think, most answers. That's where you can find the answers to those questions, and it's been on the record.
Right here. Yep.
There was a question about blasting. We answered that question in response to the engineering peer review. Pine Bond had asked about the blasting procedures. We will be doing straight excavation by excavator, but there is some rock that needs to be removed, and it will be done by blasting. We'll have to hire a contractor that is licensed in the state of Connecticut and fully insured. They will have to secure required local permits and adhere to OSHA and state and federal regulations. All neighbors within 250 feet of the property, not the building, of the property, will be offered a pre-blast survey, and blast vibration monitoring will be used by way of seismographs positioned around the site so that vibrations are held within the limits set by the Bureau of Mine and the state regulations. That answer has been on the record since October 12th, and you can find that in my correspondence dated October 12th if you need to refer to it later. A lot has been suggested about.
In terms of blasting, do you remember how many days that's in that number?
We haven't looked at a logistic staging plan to determine the number of days of blasting, so I don't have that. The drainage, I didn't go over much in the second presentation because I thought it was well documented in the first presentation. All of the water from all of the developed areas of this property will be collected and piped to the southwest to the existing pipe that discharges to Dunlap Lake. We're proposing 10 different collection structures on the east side of the building, as well as an under drain below the emergency access drive to collect that water and make sure it is piped to the southwest. It will all be treated with deep sump catch basins, with oil grit separators for pavement and parking areas, with infiltration systems. So we will not have water from the impervious sections of this property head towards Fairmead Road when this project is complete. The red area in the plan of conservation and development implying poor infiltration is really there because of the disturbed nature of the site the 2 office buildings that were built. But the surrounding soils around that UD area are actually fairly well drained. But in these situations, we actually go out and do our own in-field percolation testing to confirm that the soils will accept the groundwater coming out of the infiltration systems, and they will. And that has been a part of our report from the beginning that was submitted on September 7th, and it was reviewed by your drainage engineer and found to be acceptable. Those were, I think, the short list of specific questions that I wanted to respond to. We're happy to take any commissioner questions if there are any remaining. And if the commission is willing, we're also happy to move to our closing statement.
Natasha, thank you.
Wait.
We got stuff to review in terms of stuff you already submitted, so I don't really have any questions, but I'm just going to go around the horn. Jim, you have any questions direct for Craig and his team at this point?
No, I guess, as you might guess from the question I asked when we began tonight, the neighbors' complaints about the drainage and the puddles in their backyard and on and on and on, that they seem to think are due to the extended care, whatever you call it, facility. I mean, it seems to be a consensus among the neighbors that that structure has aggravated the drainage problems. That doesn't square with what the developer of the extended care facilities representatives said. They said it wouldn't, and it does, if the neighbors are to be believed. Which then leads me, I mean, why that should be the case is beyond me, but it frankly leads me to take a grain of salt when the engineers for this application say there's not going to be any runoff. And I suspect that the neighbors are looking. I haven't spoken to anybody outside of these meetings, but I suspect that some of the neighbors at least have the same problem. I believed you, you built it, it turned out not to be true. Why should I believe you this time? You can make if you want to make a question out of that and try to answer it, that's fine. But
look,
it doesn't require an answer right now. But
what I would say to this is, we were not the engineers on LCB. You don't have to believe me, although I would hope that you would, because I take my reputation and professional integrity very seriously. You can defer to the engineer that you hired to determine whether or not what I am saying is accurate. But 3 Parklands is not LCB, right? We're here evaluating 3 Parklands. And if you look at where LCB is relative to the neighborhood and compare that to where 3 Parklands will be relative to the neighborhood, there is a significant difference. We are much farther away. Our immediate neighbors are largely the woods. It is not the same. We're not here trying to reapprove LCB. We are here trying to approve 3 Parklands, and it is in clearly a much different location. To the extent that there were drainage concerns about LCB. I got a very specific concern from Ms. Mafucci at 1 Parklands, and I went out in the field and I looked at the condition of the drainage there, because it's all supposed to be collected and piped west, and it largely is. There's a small area of this sloped roof, which isn't being well collected by a couple of local area drains. And we've brought that to the attention of LCB, and we'll continue to work with them to resolve it. So to the extent that we had very specific information, we investigated it, and we brought it to their attention. But, you know, as for whether or not you feel as though you can trust my professional testimony, again, I would hope that you would. But if you don't, you can ask the peer review engineer that you hired to review.
Craig, I'm not trying to impugn your professional integrity. Don't misunderstand me. I'm just looking at it from the point of view of a lay citizen. And
yeah, there seems to be a lot of concern that has been brought about generally by the construction of LCB. But our point here is that we're not trying to reapprove LCB tonight. We're trying to argue for the approval of 3 Parklands Drive, which is an entirely different location and a different size. It's 1/3 the footprint in size as LCB, and it's an entirely different location.
that's it for me, Steve.
Great, appreciate it, Jim. Thank you, sir.
Craig, can I ask you a question, or is it too late?
No, Tina, hold on. Okay, Jeff
Okay.
Ball. You okay? Adam, you still there? Adam's liking this. He's the first big application he's seen. George?
I just wonder what the answer is to the question of the sun and shadow study, which I gather was not done, and why not? Just so that's on the record.
First of all, I've never been asked to do one as a part of a land use application in Darien. So it's highly unusual request, 1. 2, I'll go back to my statement about the position of 3 Parklands relative to the neighborhood. The closest house to our building is 250 feet away. And our height, and I'm going to use the zoning numbers because that's what the regulations provide for, our height is only allowed to be 5 feet taller than a single family house is allowed to be. Now, yes, there are pitched roofs, there are walkout basements, there are screens that make that number larger, but apples to apples comparison using the same definition, we're only allowed to be 5 feet taller than a single family residence. So the idea that we would be set back 250 feet from the nearest home and need to do a shadow study, what is that going to tell us? I would imagine it would tell us that it's not going to be an issue.
Thank you.
Well, I was just going to say, Craig, the shadow study isn't for the houses, it's for the plants.
Tina, please. Tina,
Oh,
please.
sorry. I didn't know I would.
Go ahead, Jeremy.
The way it works is the chairman runs the meeting, and when he calls on people, you can respond. It's not just a free-for-all with 83 people on the line. It's never going to work that way. It'll never work, especially at 11 o'clock at night. I just came on to say, Mr. Albani asked me if in my years here, my 25, 26 years here, I've seen a sun and shadow study done on any project in Darien, and I have not.
We've never had a project on everything. The only time I've ever seen it was in Central Park in New York City.
Mrs. Conway, how are you? But we still haven't done one. We can in the future, maybe. It's not a requirement in the regs, just like environmental impact statements, but I have not seen one. And it could be something that the town considers in the future, but there is no requirement in the regulations at this time.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. I got everybody. Jim, okay, great.
Can't hear you, Bill. All right.
I think we're all set. Who's it? It's Sandra. Do you have something else to add?
I'm sorry. I just have to ask this because with all due respect, Mr. Ginsburg, in your 27 years, my question to you is, how many times have you built an 86,000 square foot building on the rim of the town's nature preserve? In your 27 years, how many times have you built an
I've not built anything,
86,000
Mrs. Conway. I don't build things, but we've seen lots of big projects.
approved?
Well, I'm not going to answer it. Basically, everyone knows the situation. This is Mr. Flaherty has put in the record the size of the building, the height of the building, the location of the building relative to other buildings, relative to other houses, relative to Darien Land Trust property. I don't think anything is in dispute on this question. So I think it ultimately will become up to the commission to decide. I don't think at this point there's any disputed facts. I think the facts are in the record.
Right. Thank you. I think we're all set. Mr. Hennessy, you can do the closing statement?
Yeah, Bill is trying to talk. We've got some technical difficulty. I think he's going to
One thing.
step over to my camera and offer some thoughts.
One more thing. I still invite you to come walk my property. This is PJ Conrad, 6 Fairmead Road. I still invite you to come see my basement cracks from all the blasting from the nursing home. And can't wait for fire in the hole for the next building.
Senior living.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I'm under Craig Flaherty's tile here, so since my microphone was malfunctioning across the hall. With regard to the shadow study, just let me point out that I too have only had the experience on limited occasions after 40 years of doing this. And in each instance, it's been with a building over 25 stories tall, where there's really, a potential impact of a shadow. Here, there's no rational reason why you do a shadow study for a building that's 35 feet tall and basically in the woods and almost a football field removed from another structure. To the extent that there's concern that the landscape plan wouldn't hold up or survive, I think Matt Pop is on the line. A landscape architect with, Matt's credentials and experience only designs a plan with the appropriate planting, so he knows they're going to be healthy and thrive and live. And if you need, or if neighbors need that sort of assurance, perhaps we can tap Matt or provide his assurance at a later date. With regard to the size of the building, let me point out that the size of the building is what's been permitted under the zoning regulations since the DO zone was approved, decades ago. The only difference being, if it were an office building of that size, it would be constructed or allowed to be constructed under a simple site plan review, not this special permit process. So the square footage of the building shouldn't be in debate at all. I mean, we crafted a zoning reg text change that made this process a mandatory process for this kind of use, knowing that you as a commission would want to scrutinize the particular elements of the building and the site plan much more than your predecessors as P&Z officers did decades ago. So we voluntarily did that, and we voluntarily put up this plan. Somebody, I think it was Mr. Riley, said, gee, why didn't you think of a shadow study? Well, we thought of a drainage study, we thought of a utility study, we thought of a market analysis study, thought of a traffic study, we thought of noise and acoustical studies. We spent time with the two largest land owners around us, and perhaps the two most sensitive in a lot of ways, the owner of the stewards of Selleck Woods and Dunlap Woods, making sure that their concerns were assuaged in every way. And I'd note for the record that both of them have given letters of support. So we think we've provided all of the study over and above and beyond what the basic regulations would call. And if there's some burning issue or question in your mind that we haven't scratched deep enough on, we'll do it. But we think at this point we've provided everything and more than is required for you to have comfort that this accomplishes what the town plan of conservation and development sets forth as the overriding goal at this moment in time in history for the town of Darien. Thank you for your time. That was a long-winded way of me answering Mr. Riley's question, and I apologize.
That's all right.
Closing statement.
Is that the closing statement, or we have another closing statement after that?
I just want to make sure that our voting members feel as though you have the tools before you to make a fair analysis of this application. If there's something missing, tell us, and we'll either provide it now, or we'd hate to delay this any longer, but we would do whatever's necessary. Getting this right is what's important, as opposed to getting it fast. But my gosh, you know, between everything that's been explained, analyzed, considered since really March of last year with respect to the text change application, and through tonight with all of the testimony of everybody involved, including your peer review consultants, we think we've checked all the boxes here. But we're not perfect. If we've missed the box, tell us.
I appreciate that. And I think you put enough stuff into the file for us to review it with a very clear eye. I'll just throw it out there to the commission. If anybody thinks we're missing anything for this application, or it needs anything else to be added. If you do, just turn your microphone on and tell me. I think we're good, Bill, but I appreciate the offer.
Sure.
Okay, so if you want to close this, I think we're ready.
You know, I'll just close it very, very briefly. I would just say, you know, we have a collection of applications in front of you. The first and probably the seminal application is the map change application. And there, you know, the law is very clear. As a guidepost, the guardrails for you to decide that are in the words of your town plan of conservation and development. And as I stated a moment ago, you know, with everything going on right now in terms of affordability of housing, diversity of housing, and typology of housing, that is probably, I would say, the most important thing, or maybe I should say the most complicated and difficult thing for you to manage as a planning and zoning committee. And I think you've done a remarkable job of it. You know, when your study came out in March of 2020, and it showed that, you know, I think it was close to, I'm trying to remember, 37% of your housing stock over the last 2 decades was of a different typology than single family homes, and at affordability rates that were lower than top of the market. That showed a lot of people that Darien had been working hard to create different types of housing for different types of residents at different price points, and that's impressive. And when you changed your regs just a few months ago, that was another step to fulfilling that overarching goal contained in the town plan of conservation and development. And this application is another step in furthering that. And the fact that you have a lot of housing going on that's, you know, maybe non-traditional historically in the Darien housing stock is a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It's a terrific thing. Should be waving a flag about that. It enables people of all different economic price points, and importantly, people that want different things in a housing product to live in Darien. That's a great thing. We think this application is just another step in fulfilling that overarching goal. Besides that map change application for the 3.9 acres of Parklands, there's a site plan application, and there is a special permit application. There's an application for conducting earthworks. Your regulations are very, very clear on what the standards and criteria are for issuing those. You just read down the regulation list. And we believe in every respect we fulfilled every single one of those criteria that appertain to this project. And we began this application by providing you with a document that's about 10 pages long as part of our application. I think it was Exhibit E, and it was entitled, I don't have it in front of me.
The main application narrative,
yeah, the main application narrative. I'd implore you to take a look at that and just review it. I don't think anything's changed throughout the whole 3 or 4 nights of this, and that is the that should help you decide whether we've achieved a level of completeness that would merit approval. The document's entitled, Craig was just kind enough to give it to me, Narrative and Compliance Statement for Zoning Map Change, Site Plan and Special Permit and Landfilling, Excavation, and Earth Removal Applications. And it was part of the original application. You know, it's late, you've been patient, and I don't think I need to go into any more depth of that. The only remaining thing for me to do is to thank all of you for your time, your patience, your consideration. And I include in that, on behalf of the applicant, you know, the many neighbors who have taken time to express their opinion about this. It might be hard to believe now, but, you know, you made this, you've helped shape the application, and it's something that we are all very proud of. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Appreciate that, Mr. Tracy. Okay, it is now 11:30 at night. That's a new record. Commissioners, I think we're basically heard from all the public a bunch of different times. The applicant made their final presentation. So with that said, I would like to entertain a motion to close this hearing. Jeff Ball is making a motion to close. Adam's making a second. All those in favor to close the hearing, say aye. All those opposed, say nay. And all those, what's the other one? So that's abstaining. Wow, I'm tired.
Was opposed. So
Good.
4-1.
4-1 to close the hearing. All righty. Thank you, everybody. That hearing is closed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. About to the next item on our agenda. The next item on the agenda is continuation of public hearing, coastal site plan review number 365, sludge damage and prevention application number 418, land filling and regrading application number 519, Gilbert Anne Holmes at 12 Pratt Island. This is a continuation, so I'll have to read the whole thing. Is Rob Frangione, he's my guy.
Yes, I am here. I understand you probably want to continue this to the next meeting, considering that it's 11:30 at night.
Would you mind if we moved you to
We could do next week, December 7th. We're having a special meeting.
we add you to a special meeting to next week?
Can you put us before a hearing that has 3 days of hearings? So we don't have to go on.
Next week, so
We'll put you first on the agenda. How's that? Can you do that?
We would appreciate that. I don't want to take up any more of your time. It's late.
Great,
we'll
thanks.
continue this hearing for all who are here to Tuesday, December 7th. It's a special meeting. And it'll be online GoToMeeting at 7:30 at night, and we'll publish the information this Thursday afternoon.
Fantastic, great.
Thank you for your patience.
Thank you, I appreciate it, Rob. Sorry about that.
It's okay, I understand.
All right, I think that's it.
That's the end of our agenda.
That's the end of our agenda. All right, with that said, that's in the agenda. So I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Jeff Ball makes a motion, Jim Rand makes a second. All those in favor? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Have a great